Thank you all. Good evening. Welcome to this public hearing on the Commission on Government Efficiency. My name is Patrick Gaspard, and it is a tremendous honor to be asked to chair this commission. We're here today because New Yorkers deserve and need a government of the possible, one that can urgently build infrastructure, promote small business growth, and make the city more livable and more accessible with childcare that we can afford and groceries that we can afford as well. The task we are going to undertake is a review of the entire charter to build a 21st century government that New Yorkers need. So if you have not read all 1,100 pages of the city charter, please exit now. Only if the voters agree to the changes that we recommend at the election on the ballot in November will any changes into the charter go into effect. I know that I speak for my fellow commissioners when I say that we're committed to hear from a broad spectrum, a cross-section of New Yorkers, and to pursuing the very best ideas that we find. This hearing is just one of many public hearings which will be held across every borough to hear ideas from experts, community leaders, elected officials, and any member of the public who wishes to testify. Importantly, this is an independent, nonpartisan commission. In making our recommendations to the city voters, we are bound only by our judgment and our shared values. We will pursue ideas regardless of who proposes them and regardless of who supports them. Joining me in this task are 14 outstanding commissioners who care deeply about New York City. They are Vice Chair Emma Wolf, Secretary Susan Kang, Henry Garrido, Kapil Longani, Ruth Messenger, Theodore Moore, Anna Oliveira, Carlina Rivera, Esther Rosario, Mark Shaw, Marika Williams, Catherine Wild. Absent tonight are commission members Marco Carrion and Dawn Pinnock. Although, as I said, we are considering the entire charter, the commission is looking in particular at the processes and procedures built into our charter that could be updated to deliver a more efficient government that serves all New Yorkers with excellence. Today, we're focused primarily on streamlining government for infrastructure projects in the public realm. Infrastructure, of course, is key to organizing our society. No one would be in this room tonight or on our live stream if we were not caring for our infrastructure. Infrastructure includes everything from how we got here to the roads and bridges and bike shares that we use across the city. Infrastructure is the Williamsburg Bridge bump that Mayor Mamdani personally fixed in his first week in office. It's also the McGinnis Boulevard redesign that's underway in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. It's the 31st Street redesign in Astoria, Queens, and the Madison Avenue double bus lane extension in Manhattan, if one cares about these things. It's the water tunnels that DEP digs, the networks that bring us 5G internet, the parks where our children play. And throughout all of this, we bring the imperative to use city dollars as effectively as possible so that we can provide the services that working New Yorkers rely on. The challenges we encounter when building our infrastructure, when improving our shared public spaces, will be the focus of this hearing. But we will invite testimony on any topic related to the charter. All input will be welcome. Let me say just a few words about how this hearing is organized and how it's going to unfold. For members of the public, we will hear first from those who are attending this meeting in person. We will then move to testimony from those who are attending virtually. Members of the public are asked to testify for no longer than 3 minutes. We will call for testimony from 2 people at a time, followed by any questions from the commission. Now, I have to tell you that I'm going to be pretty rigorous about the timing so that we can hear from as many folks as possible. And unlike the referees who refused to call any fouls on the San Antonio Spurs last night, I'm going to do my job. So if you wish to testify virtually, there's a form online. You can find it on the meeting page for this hearing. Go to nyc.gov/COGE, click on the Get Involved tab, and select the Manhattan hearing. We will also drop a link to the form in the chat. We're going to do our best, as I said, to hear from everyone, and we're going to be rigorous about moving the process along. You all can hang out anywhere you want the rest of this evening, but we are going to be tossed out of this room at 8 p.m. In the event that we don't hear from all of you, who want to testify, there will be other opportunities to submit testimony. This is, as I said, is just one of several hearings. You can submit your written commission by completing the online form on the website that I just named. If you cannot attend the hearings, each of the hearings will be public, live streamed, and recorded for archival purposes. Before we proceed, I would like to ask for a motion from this commission to approve the minutes from our very first public meeting last week on June 4th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes have been adopted. I think that we have completed our first bit of business as a commission. With that, we're prepared to get started, and we'd like to begin with our testimony. And I am waiting for our exceptional staff to understand who we have on cue at the top. Updating.
Testimony. Testimony.
How do we fill the dais? Filling the dais.
It's not updating. But I'll take a handwritten note, Daniel.
A text. Paper.
You know, I'm a 20th century guy. Apologies, it won't be long. It's frozen on here. Tim Jackson, welcome.
Jim Tompkins, yes. So thank you. I'm excited to be here because I know the importance of a charter commission. My first job out of college was working for the Charter Commission in '89 with Richard Ravitch, where Ruth Messenger, I think you testified at that time that you did an amazing job in shaping that. And you said, I think you said real estate is to New York as oil is to Texas, which is still very true. Later, I worked with Carl Weisbrod in the Dinkins administration at UDC. I started an organization called Partnerships for Parks with the City Parks Foundation, working with neighborhood groups to try and improve city parks, especially in less resource areas. And an early success was helping in small ways to start the Bronx River Alliance. As important as we know public space involvement is by community groups, it's not enough. There must be adequate public sector investment in the public realm with an adequate and unionized city workforce, especially with respect to both maintenance and recreation programs, which were savagely reduced during the 70s and 80s. That's one of the reasons why I stepped out after partnerships to lead an effort, Parks 2001, to get adequate funding for city parks. 9/11 happened and resources went elsewhere for very good reasons. I then led the Times Square Alliance and was co-chair of the New York City Bid Association, and also worked with other city agencies like SBS and DOT that play a role in improving the public realm. And now I work at NYU Marin with amazing people like Mindy Tarlow, who worked in city government, and at NYU Wagner with people like Polly Trottenberg, and really thinking about how do we improve places? How does the city have a set of intentions saying that we value community partners, and if we value them, that we're going to empower them and enable them, especially in less resources areas. There still has to be adequate city resources, but the key thing is to invest in, a key thing is to support these neighborhood efforts. And there isn't a lot of time to talk, so I will send you.
You have 1 minute, Tim,
Yeah,
if you can be.
I will send specific ideas relating to several things which have to do with provisions in the charter relating to infrastructure maintenance, which Richard Ravitch was focused on, and that they're not really adequately being looked at. The provisions related to the mayor's management report, which also are ways of creating accountability at the neighborhood level and integrating the different city efforts and agencies. And these are not new problems. I will send specific recommendations, but Jane Jacobs wrote about them 50 years ago. She said citizens of big cities are forever berated for not taking sufficiently active interest in government. It is amazing, rather, that they keep trying. She talks about the fragmentation of city government, and the key thing is to understand not just specific city services, but also to understand places. And the way to understand places is to work with the communities that know them best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tim. Jackson, I'm turning to you, but Tim, please, if you'd stay there, because I'm actually going to ask you to just be a little bit more specific about the mayor's management report, and we have to see if other commissioners have questions as well. Please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackson Chabot. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Organizing at Open Plans, and we work across the city to advocate for livable streets. I'm here tonight to testify in support of reforms that would make it easier to permit outdoor dining in New York City. Outdoor dining has become an important feature of New York City's landscape since the pandemic. It supports small businesses, creates vibrant public spaces, and it gives New Yorkers more opportunities to gather in their neighborhoods. Now that the city has established a permanent outdoor dining program, our governing processes should reflect this reality. We urge the Commission to recommend charter changes that would allow outdoor dining to be administered through the Department of Transportation's permits and licenses rather than revocable consents. More broadly, the charter should give the city flexibility to use permits instead of revocable consents for routine and recurring uses of the public right-of-way where appropriate. Doing so would create a more efficient and predictable process while maintaining public oversight and accountability. We also encourage the Commission to review the charter's public hearing notice requirements for outdoor dining applications. Public notice is important, but under the current processes, restaurants must pay to publish hearing notices, with costs typically ranging, according to the New York City Department of Transportation, from $100 to $800 per application. For small businesses, these costs can represent an unnecessary and high burden to participation in the program. We urge the Commission to consider capping these publication costs at a reasonable level or eliminating them altogether. New York has already made a policy decision to support outdoor dining, and the next step is ensuring that this administrative process is aligned with that goal. By modernizing the charter's revocable consent provisions and reducing unnecessary costs, the city can make outdoor dining more accessible, more equitable, and easier to administer while continuing to support thriving commercial corridors across the 5 boroughs. We've done some analysis, and presently, at the date of publishing, right now there's about 7 restaurants in the Bronx that use outdoor dining in the roadway, and there is 1 in Staten Island and 24 in Queens. The overwhelming majority are in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and we're reproducing spatial inequities across our city based on the way that we've designated and set up the program. So speaking to what this means for small businesses across the 5 boroughs, I sincerely ask you to review this. Thank you so much.
Jackson, thank you for the testimony, and thank you for the thorough analysis that you've clearly conducted. We'll see if anyone on the Commission has a question for you. Tim, I just want to give you 45 seconds to give us any top lines that you possibly could on MMR and how you think it's implicated in charter reform. And I just want to thank you for conjuring up Dick Ravitch, which means a great deal for those of us who were privileged to have served with him.
I think that the MMR, when it was really originally created, was a great mechanism for creating KPIs and performance indicators and accountability. I think when you look at it now, at least in terms of what's publicly available, you have information that's provided on an annual or semi-annual basis and not broken down by neighborhood and not with respect to smaller indicators. So I worked with some CUSP NYU students to try and create a new version of a neighborhood dashboard where you combine things that reflect citizen sentiment, like 311, which has some problems, but as a starter, things like the Citizen Budget Commission resident survey, which up until 2023 was broken down by neighborhood, and then combine that with more real-time online things. My suggestion would be to work with some tech and open data people to say, how do we make this work? There's an example of it, the New York City equity map, which was a very important thing that Blasio folks did, but to do that more with respect to more day-to-day city services.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions, commissioners? Ruth?
Yes, I can't make my mic work, but for both of you, but particularly for you, you will hear me ask this question often. if you know of cities where this issue is being addressed better, can you please send us short references that are in your own words that say this is how the other cities do it? And I'm particularly interested in that with regard to AI, because I think there are cities that are way ahead of us in that.
Atlanta is doing a very interesting experiment with trying to organize the silos of city government by neighborhoods with local administrators.
Mark?
Given how technology is constantly changing, do you have any thoughts about, from either of your comments, what things belong in the charter versus elsewhere?
I was thinking about that, and it might be to set out a process whereby every 5 or 10 years, the city engages,
We're only doing this once, but go ahead.
Sorry, what?
You said we're only doing this once, but.
Yeah, okay, all right. But the charter basically says, convene technological experts, both with respect to UI and these key performance indicators and open data, to sort of say what are best practices for measuring performance using technology.
And we can follow up with more thoughts, but building off of what Tim described with 311, I think it's really important for this commission as well as for city government to continue to evolve to reflect what frustrations and challenges people have across the city. So we'll follow up with specifics.
Great. Any additional questions, commissioners? Fantastic. Thank you so very much
Thank
for
you,
your
everyone.
testimony. We're now going to ask Susan Lee and Melanie Westlock to join us.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Susan Lee. I'm the president of Alliance for Community Preservation and Betterment. I commend Mayor Mondani for the appointment of Commission on Government Efficiency, whose mission is to examine how New York City Charter can better serve the public excellence by improving efficiency, modernizing city government, and ensuring that the government keeps pace with New Yorkers' needs. My testimony will focus on the last point, which is ensuring that the government keeps pace with New Yorkers' needs. According to the most recent voter roll from February 2026, New York City has over 1.2 million unaffiliated voters, meaning that these voters are disenfranchised simply because they are not registered as a Democrat or a Republican. This is approximately 24% of the voting population. They are shut out from the closed primary. How are we addressing the needs of 1.2 million voters if they can't cast a ballot in the primaries? How are their voices heard? A study by the Bipartisan Policy Center titled "The Effect of Open Primaries on Turnout and Representation" found that open primaries and nonpartisan primaries tend to produce a more representative electorate than a closed primary. The electorate grows more demographically and politically representative. Currently, the city has the Matching Funds Program, where candidates can receive public money when they run for office, regardless of your party affiliation. You, as a New York City resident, are paying taxes, but you cannot cast a vote because you are an unaffiliated voter. It begs the question again. How does that ensure the government is keeping pace with New Yorkers' needs when they are using our tax dollars to fund political campaigns that unaffiliated voters cannot participate in? On the 250th anniversary of the founding of this beautiful country, I think it's important to remember that the colonists went to war against Great Britain because they believed no taxation without representation. 1.2 million New Yorkers are locked out of the primary. As Americans, we need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Melanie?
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. This is actually my second time giving testimony on the subject of open primaries. My name is Melanie Westlock. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, a parent, and a small business owner of multiple small businesses in New York City. I'm also a proud member of One City Rising, which is a grassroots organization of bipartisan New Yorkers throughout New York City. I'm here to speak about my support of open primaries. Open primaries, especially in a diverse and politically dynamic city like New York City, would create a more inclusive, representative, and democratic electoral process. As many know, open primaries encourage voter participation as opposed to disenfranchising voters who simply do not identify as either Republican or Democrat. In New York City, many registered voters identify as independents, and under the current closed primary system, these voters are excluded from helping to choose candidates in major party primaries, which often, pretty much every time, determine the eventual winner in this heavily one-party city. Currently, voter turnout in New York City, as you know, is a shameful 10%. Allowing all voters to participate in primaries can lead to higher voter turnout and greater civic engagement, which I think most of you, as people in the positions that you're in, agree it should be a priority. Open primaries encourage candidates to appeal to a broader range of constituents. I think this is very important, that rather than catering only to their party's base, candidates must consider the perspectives and priorities of all voters. This can result in more moderate, consensus-driven leaders who are better equipped to govern a diverse and complex city like New York City. As a business owner, I have a personal stake in the success of the city, which depends on proper representation. Open primaries would foster an environment where independent voters, such as myself, would finally have a voice. Open primaries promote fairness and transparency. They empower voters rather than parties. In a city like New York, embracing open primaries would be a step toward a more equitable democracy instead of a one-party rule. In conclusion, open primaries would lead to greater voter participation, more balanced representation, and a more robust democratic process. By opening up the system to all voters, regardless of party affiliation, New York can better reflect the will and needs of its people. New York City is one of the few major cities that not to have open primaries. We pride ourselves in being the leader and example of what a great city should be. It's time that our primaries live up to this expectation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much for your testimony and your passion on this issue. Can I ask both of you, before I turn it over to other commissioners, whether or not you have data that compares participation in New York City against participation in other cities in America that have open primaries? We just came off of an election last year where we had record turnout and participation in New York in the primary period, but also in the general election period. It seemed to be robust. There was a tremendous amount of engagement. And I wonder how you're tracking that versus other open primary cities.
So there are several studies that demonstrated that when you open primaries to nonpartisan, we're not talking about jungle primaries, but nonpartisan primaries, there has been an increase in voter turnout. And I think that it is one of those things that if you are blocking out 1.2 million voters.
I heard your opening testimony. I'm asking whether or not there's specific data
There
that
are.
compares New York to other cities that have open primaries.
There are data out
Any
there.
you would cite, any particular cities you would cite?
I left my phone in the back. I can
No
get
worries,
that for
I
you.
understand. You can submit it with
Okay.
your
I think
testimony.
both of us can submit that. And I also think that this last election and the voter turnout for the last election is a little bit of an anomaly for New York City. I think we can all agree on that. It was a very different, unique election that happened. I think that, I know for a fact that there is data to support it, and we are happy to send that.
Great.
We're not a team, but I'm
No
certain that
worries.
both of us, because there are facts and they exist, and it's very important. When you're looking at over 1 million voters that don't have a say in an election.
Yes.
It's just, and people don't show up for them. If you know that your vote doesn't count, which is what everyone says when they're an independent, they just don't show up.
I asked because I care deeply about this issue. We have poor voter participation all across America, so it's great to know that you're so engaged.
I would like to add, I'm
And-
sorry if you don't
oh,
mind, apologies.
Sorry.
I had to register for a party that I do not want to be in order to have a vote in our primaries. So that personally, I don't want to be part of this party, but I'm in it just so I can vote. And I think that is insanity.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions from commissioners? No. Thank you so very much for your
Thank you
testimony.
for your time.
Thank you for yours. I'd like to now call on Jeffrey Aaron and Michael Hickey.
My name is Jeff Aaron. I have to say, I'm very excited about the last two testimonies. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I went to I taught at Brooklyn College. I've worked in mental health and youth development my whole life in New York City. I'm also an independent, and that means in New York City, I can't vote in the primary. I testified at the commission hearings last year, and it's good to see Commissioner Wild again. I testified in support of open primaries, which wasn't initially on the commission's agenda, but which became the #1 issue which citizens who came before the commission was focused on. And the commission affirmed both its importance to the city and that it should be addressed, and acknowledged that New York City was an outlier compared to 85% of US cities which have some form of nonpartisan elections. As the other folks just mentioned, in New York City, there are 1.2 million voters who are not registered in any of the parties and who cannot vote in the primary elections. 54% of those voters are people of color. 650,000 people of color in New York City are excluded from voting in the elections that matter when choosing who will represent them in government. Some might say this is a civil rights issue of the same magnitude as what we are seeing in states that have had a long history of excluding people from the polls. There are so many people, young, some old like myself, who would like to cast a meaningful vote in our elections. I met Mayor Mamdani when he came to Stuyvesant Town. I told him how proud I was to meet him and to have voted for him, and that I wished I could have voted for him in the primaries as well, but that I had been excluded because I am an independent. And I asked him if he would consider supporting open primaries, and he said it was an issue that was on his agenda and that he was open to considering it. So I'm here to ask you, both given his interest and as the mayor's commission, if this is an interest that you will be considering. I'm wondering how you're thinking about it, and frankly wondering how it would be possible for a government to be efficient that blocks 1.2 million people from participating in the elections that decide who will be their elected representatives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Hickey. I'm Chief of Strategy and Operations for Citizens NYC. For 51 years, we've been finding, funding, and growing the capacity of New York City's community-based and hyperlocal leaders. In 2026, we'll issue 500 grant awards totaling more than $2 million to small nonprofits, volunteer-led organizations, small businesses. They'll use these funds to tackle issues ranging from education to climate resilience, arts and culture, et cetera. What I'm really here to talk about is the fact that this year we will also issue payments to another 750 community-based organizations totaling some $12 million for issues ranging from participatory budgeting to workforce development to childcare access to open streets and supporting LGBTQ+ communities. The difference is that these funds will be city tax levy dollar issued from 8 city agencies through our master contract, a $75 million procurement vehicle that allows these agencies to partner with Citizens NYC as their streamlined payment pathway. The groups we're funding typically go from applying to an RFP to being funded in about 45 days. They do this with a greatly reduced administrative burden and a much deeper working partnership with the city agency program staff. City agency partners can enact their programs with flexibility, speed, and simplicity, all while retaining full oversight and authority over the implementation and funding. As someone who formerly ran a major city office working with highly vulnerable families and students, I'm frankly a little jealous that I didn't have this. As I was leading my team, I would have had greatly improved my ability to respond to both immediate and longer-term needs, empower my team to innovate, and deepen trust with New York City residents who are otherwise the first to experience hardship when the bureaucracy can't live up to its intentions. The Citizens NYC Master Contract is an exception process, an outlier. It cannot itself serve as a model for overall procurement transformation. but it can serve as an example of what happens when a city agency commits to creating an innovative procurement pathway that's purpose-built for engaging hyperlocal leaders, restoring trust within communities by partnering with those who already have it, deepening understanding of neighborhood needs and applying those learnings to agency planning and operations. Finally, building the capacity of the nonprofit sector using that most fundamental and powerful of tools, on-time payment in full. We recommend that the PPB be better empowered to set rules, that MOCs be better empowered to enforce them. We recommend that the commission raise the small purchase threshold and index it to inflation so that groups who would have been included before can be included once again. We recommend that all contracting agencies disclose timeline data by contract type and processing stage to make timing visible and accountable. Finally, we recommend the contract administration be scaled to size and scope of funding so that community-based and hyperlocal partners are no longer excluded from competing because the administrative cost is too damn high. The Citizens NYC Master Contract makes all of these possible now as exceptions. Please help us make this the exception that proves the rule. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the clarity of your recommendations. Questions from commissioners? Henry, please. And Ruth.
Thank you for your testimony. I have a question regarding your proposal to amend the procurement rules. Because the PPP already has broad range of authority to set those rules and they don't seem to work. They don't seem to work because it's not tied to an OMB process. And later on with city council, it seems like a bifurcated process. But more specifically, your suggestion about the creation of master contracts that requires, will those master contract go through the regular procurement? And if that's the case, aren't we replicating the very same thing doesn't work?
Well, in the case of our master contract, it did go through a standard procurement. It took about 2 years to create. But once the master contract itself is in place, we can move with incredible efficiency. We'll go from creating a task order to implementing funding in about 100 days.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ruth?
I think you've addressed this already. I love your testimony and I'd love more details about the master contract, but any suggestions that you have, which you can get to us in writing, that would deal with the time delays from approved contracts would be hugely welcome. I'm going to testify to say that the most embarrassing thing about the city of New York is that city agencies tell small organizations to call the New York Foundation to get a loan after they've been approved but for a contract. Because it takes so long for an approved contract to actually deliver money. And I find that appalling. And I'd like to know any suggestions that you have for as the procurement process proceeds, when a group, whether it's the master group or whether it's smaller groups that are finally getting access to city contracts, when the contract is approved, I do not understand why we can't get them the money.
There are so many people in this room who would be able to speak to that with much greater clarity than I can. But what I will say is, I'm hopeful that the Charter Commission views this purview as an opportunity to create the accountability and transparency infrastructure that we can use to drive the responsibility at the implementation level. The charter revision results will be just the beginning of the process of actually creating true government efficiency.
Right. Please.
Thank you, Mike. And I just want to, if it's in your testimony, but also can you outline a little bit more about your transparency piece, this data on contracting type delays? Are you looking at agencies? How are you thinking about sort of capturing, hopefully solving the problem, but also collecting the data on the magnitude of what the problem is right now?
You know, I'm really interested by the work of Sea Change Capital. Folks probably know John McIntosh. He's done a really great job of working with public data to create a series of tools and dashboards that are really opening up the tracking of contract procedures, both for registration and for payment. And I'm happy to make sure that he joins me at another opportunity to testify or provide something in writing.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you both. I'd now like to invite the testimony of Sam Panuccio and Stacy Chemechnik, and my apologies if I have butchered any names.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this evening. I also want to thank you for your service on the Commission for examining how New York City's government can better serve its residents. My name is Peter Panuccio. I'm a retired 39-year veteran of the NYPD and a proud member of 3 police unions. I strongly believe in the representation that unions provide. For generations, unions have played a vital role in protecting working people, ensuring fair treatment on the job, advocating for safe working conditions, and giving workers a collective voice in decisions that affect their lives. I also want to acknowledge the important roles unions play in our democratic process. Unions help educate voters, encourage civic participation, endorse candidates they believe will stand up for working families, and advocate for policies that strengthen New York City and improve the lives of working and middle-class residents. This commission has been empaneled to identify ways to improve government efficiency, strengthen public trust, and ensure that government works better for all New Yorkers. In my view, there is no reform more fundamental to achieving those goals than expanding representation through greater voter participation that can best be achieved by having open primaries. Just as unions help ensure that workers have a voice in the workplace, our election system should ensure that every voter has a voice in our democracy. This is why I believe our current system of closed partisan primaries is ultimately against the interest of union members and against the interest of working middle-class New Yorkers. More and more Americans today are choosing to register as independents rather than affiliating with either major political party. Independent voters are one of the fastest growing segments of the electorate. Here in New York City, approximately 1.4 million voters are registered without a party affiliation, and nearly half of those voters are under the age 40. As someone who believes strongly in the future of organized labor, I find that concerning. We want young people to understand the important role unions play in protecting workers, advocating for better wages and benefits, and strengthening the middle class. We want them engaged in civic life and invested in the future of our city. When the government tells more than 1 million voters that they cannot participate in elections that often determine who will govern them, it sends a powerful message. It tells those voters that their voices matter less. It tells them that they are outsiders in a process that should be representing all New Yorkers. It is telling over 700,000 New Yorkers that their voices don't matter and their voices don't count. This is not how you build trust in government. It is not how you encourage civic participation. And it's certainly not how you build support among younger generations for institutions that depend on public engagement, including unions. People are more-
Sir, you're at time. I'll let you finish the sentence.
I'm good. I think you get the idea.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony and for your
Thank you, sir.
service.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissions. Thank you for listening to my testimony tonight. My name is Stacy Chemetsnik. Perfectly.
Mhm.
I am a lifelong New York City resident who cares deeply about our city and believes that fair, representative, and democratic elections are essential to New York's future success. In my view, a good and effective government begins with broad participation in our elections. That is why I believe one of the most important reforms this commission should adopt is replacing our closed partisan primary system with open primaries. I am a voter who participates in every election, including primary elections, but I also recognize that I am one of the exceptions rather than the rule. Reality is that only a small percentage of New Yorkers participate in primary elections, even though those elections often determine who will ultimately hold public office. As a result, a relatively small number of voters exercise an outsized influence over the future of our city. When only a fraction of eligible voters participate, government becomes less representative of the people it serves. Over the years, New York City has adopted a number of reforms designed to increase voter participation. We have implemented ranked choice voting and one of the most generous public matching fund programs in the country. Yet, despite these reforms, turnout in primary elections remains stubbornly low. One major barrier remains in place, our closed primary system, which excludes voters who are not registered with a political party, over 1.4 independent voters. The evidence supporting open primaries is substantial and growing. A 2024 study by Joshua Ferrer for the Bipartisan Policy Center examined states that switched from closed primaries to systems that allowed unaffiliated voters to participate. Using millions of voter records, the study found that opening primaries increased turnout by approximately 5 percentage points. Importantly, the gains were seen across all racial groups, including Black, Latino, Asian, and white voters. The study also found that open and nonpartisan systems produced electorates that were more representative of the broader population. A separate 2024 study by Mikatka, Tolbert, and their co-authors found the voters living in states with nonpartisan primary systems were 12 percentage points more likely to vote in congressional primaries than voters living in closed primary states. What is particularly noteworthy is that independent voters benefited the most. The study found that independents were significantly more likely to participate when barriers to participation were removed. Another major study by Donovan and his colleagues, published in 2025, used approximately 2 million voter records, found that nonpartisan primaries were associated with higher turnout across all age, income, and educational groups. The largest gains were among younger voters, with participation rates for younger adults substantially higher under nonpartisan systems than under traditional closed primaries.
You're right at time. You can finish
Okay.
that sentence.
Thank you. The conclusion from these studies is clear. When voters are given greater access to participate, more of them vote.
So Mayor Bloomberg was fond of saying, "In God we trust," but everybody else bring data. So I really appreciate the data that you were able to bring to this conversation. Questions from commissioners? Great. Thank you so very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Maria Danzillo and Michael Picarillo, if they are present. Are you present? Here we go.
Usually I'm here for like 4 hours before I'm called, so it's a real pleasure to be called really early. Okay. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is Maria Danzillo, and I'm Executive Director of One City Rising. We're an actual grassroots good government organization with more than 2,000 members across the 5 boroughs. We're nonpartisan, and our organization advocates for reforms that improve quality of life, strengthen civic participation, and make government better for all New Yorkers. So this commission is empowered to make New York City government work better for the people it serves. And as you've heard from many people this evening who believe in open primaries, One City Rising also feels that open primaries are extremely important to address inequities in our election system, and that prevents more than 1.2 to 1.4 million New Yorkers from participating in the elections that determine who will govern them. So the issue was taken up, of course, as I'm sure you all know, in the 2025 Charter Revision Commission, which consisted of a diverse independent group of New Yorkers who spent many months taking testimony. I also testified a number of times and submitted written testimony and sat in very cold rooms for many long hours. I attended every hearing, and one thing that came across very clearly was how seriously the previous commission took this issue. They heard from academics, civic leaders, community advocates, and election experts. They even commissioned an extensive report under the pre-clearance provisions of New York's Voting Rights Act, which was written by former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and I quote, "The main effect of moving to an open primary followed by a top 2 election would be to give unaffiliated voters the ability to participate in the primary process and a greater incentive to participate in the general election because they will have had some say in whether a candidate moves forward from the primary to a general. In New York City, these voters comprise just over 20% of the electorate. Further, there is some evidence that the shift has a general positive effect on turnout, which I believe the previous person testified to significant data on that point. Ms. Lynch goes on to say that there is significant evidence that the proposal would be not to diminish the ability of any protected class member to participate in the political process, and indeed may have significant salutary effects depending on the class. As noted, a significant benefit of the proposed change would be to give more voice to unaffiliated voters, and these voters come from across protected classes. A majority of unaffiliated voters, a minority voters, that's 54%, with more than a third, 33.5%, consisting of Black and Hispanic voters, and the Asian share of unaffiliated voters is twice the share of all registered voters. There's some recent data showing that up to 50% of unaffiliated voters are under the age of 40. So, this is a great way to get people who are younger voters to participate in our election. The committee.
You're at time.
Okay, may I make one
Yes,
more
please,
point?
you can
So
finish
I
that
just would
sentence,
like to
please.
urge this commission to take this issue seriously, as I'm sure you all will, as you've said already. There's significant evidence and data in the record already, and I just would really respectfully
you.
request that you all take a look at what has already been done last year.
Thank you so very much. Please.
All right. Hello. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Michael Picarillo. I'm the Director of Area Standards for the New York City District Council of Carpenters, representing about 17,000 carpenters across the city. Our men and women are the ones actually building this city. We're in the dirt and the mud on these jobs from day one through the finish line. So when something's off, we see it immediately. And right now what you see isn't a lack of effort, it's a lack of coordination. Jobs get slowed down because people aren't on the same page. Work gets redone, time gets wasted for no reason. That's where the real inefficiency is. Everyone talks about efficiency like it's some abstract idea. For us, it's simple. Stop making the same mistakes over and over again. If you want projects to move, then put people on the job who know what they're doing. When you have experienced union carpenters on site, things run smoother, safer, and faster without cutting corners. That's not an opinion. That's just how jobs actually play out. And here's the part that gets missed a lot. It isn't just about buildings. This is about people. We train people from the ground up, young people out of high school, immigrants, veterans, and turn that opportunity into real careers, not temporary jobs. Real paychecks, real benefits, and real stability. So if we're serious about fixing the system, we can't just look at how fast something gets approved. We have to look at what happens once the job actually starts. Build smarter, set the job up right from the start, make sure the right trades are in place, and make sure they're qualified. And if public money's in the mix, then the public should actually see a return. Good jobs, accountability, and work that lasts. Because at the end of the day, planning a project isn't just about what gets built, it's also about who's doing the building. Of course, my phone rings. And if you get that part right, everything else starts to fall into place. We don't have to choose between getting projects done and doing right by working people. We can do both, but only if we stop treating them like it's separate issues. That's what efficiency should really mean. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that testimony. And Michael, I suspect that you're going to hear a lot of people quoting from your remarks.
Thank you.
Very, very impactful. Please, Emma.
Thank you so much for your testimony and your service. Can you say a little bit more about what you're recommending for the commission?
So kind of what we're speaking about is when you have a large project like this, reach out to organized labor, reach out to the building trades, ask us how to get a project done. We're the ones that, you look at this room, I'm not the only one for the building trades here. You have decades and decades of experience. We know what it takes to build something, right? So definitely reach out to us. We know how to work efficiently, right? There's nothing a carpenter, an iron worker, or anybody else hates more than doing something over and over and over again, right? It just, we should definitely be involved in the process. You're welcome.
Other questions? Please, Henry.
Yeah, one question. We've seen nationally the challenge of project labor agreements as a mechanism to slow down projects. In your opinion, are project labor agreements a tool to execute some of the recommendations that you're having?
No, I think it actually speeds up the process, right? Because you're gonna guarantee that you have trained people there, people who went through the apprenticeship that have years and years of experience. I think that's just a rumor that you get from developers and billionaires and everybody else that just wants to attack organized labor. Thank you. You're welcome.
Please.
Thank you for your testimony. Do you have any data on the process by which, I believe there's a lot of data out there on PLAs speeding up that process and organized labor,
Yeah,
helping speed up projects?
there is. So I believe the building trades actually did a study on it recently.
Okay.
That actually states that they went about it a little bit faster. I could have Gary reach out, Esther.
Yes,
I could have Gary reach out.
I believe he submitted that for the record.
Okay.
Great.
Submitted a
Thank you so very much. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for your testimony. I'd like to now invite Bill Murray and Taylor Palmer to join us.
Another Bill Murray.
Who you gonna call?
Will you do Groundhog Day first?
I actually saw Bill Murray in person for the first time in my 42 years on this earth last weekend in Greenpoint, but he was busy, so I didn't interrupt him. But maybe next time. Thank you, commissioners. I am Bill Murray and a lifelong resident of Queens, graduate of Queens College, member of Community Board 2, Queens. I also worked at the city council for many years, both for an individual member as well as the institution on committees, where I was involved in about 50 bills that were eventually enacted into law. Currently in the private sector, and this is just to say that I've seen the city, from very many perspectives, and I hope to bring them to bear in this process. I am here on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of New York. Our firms are the engineers who plan, design, and manage the construction of New York City's infrastructure and building projects. In January, we published a paper on procurement reform. Most of our recommendations regard administrative changes that agencies can make without amending the charter. I have a copy of this paper and would love to submit it for the record if I may. Tonight, however, I will focus on two areas where the charter itself can improve capital project delivery to streamline it better. First, across nearly every agency, the most damaging delays often occur after a vendor, called an engineering firm, is selected, but before its contract or change order can be registered with the comptroller. Under Charter Section 328, a contract cannot be implemented until it is registered, according to the language there. However, agencies routinely direct firms in one form or another to begin work before registration is complete. Firms are asked to hire and organize their staff, mobilize the necessary resources, incur overhead, incur payroll costs, and perform services, oftentimes for many months, and we do have data which I can talk about, without an enforceable agreement for payment in place. In effect, the city relies on private firms to finance when delays occur. This burden falls particularly hard on smaller firms who are subconsultants to prime contract holders, also to prime contract holders, and to MWBEs, who often are small firms, and many of whom are in our membership. Because agencies don't bear the direct costs of these delays, there is little incentive to accelerate the registration process. The city recognized this problem when it took steps to accelerate contract registration for nonprofit vendors last year. The city enacted local laws 156 and 157 to address this problem in the nonprofit sector. However, the same issue is widely impacting vendors who are responsible for designing infrastructure, and in our sector, the problem remains unaddressed. Our recommendation is straightforward. Amend the city charter to expressly prohibit city agencies and personnel from directing any vendor to begin work on a contract or change order before it has been registered. I have one other comment regarding the budget process. I don't know if those.
You're at time, but maybe you'll have an opportunity to address that during the Q&A. Please. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Taylor Palmer, also former public servant, and I worked in the construction industry as well. I'm also here on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of New York. My colleague Bill Murray here talked to you guys about actionable steps that the commission can take. I would like to provide some additional information in relation to everybody's favorite topic, cost. When public infrastructure projects stall due to contract registration or change orders, the cost of delay is sometimes measured by construction escalation alone. However, this is a narrow view that obscures the true cost burden placed on New Yorkers. Engineering and professional services costs also rise when projects are delayed. Labor benefits, overhead increases over time, often in line with inflation. Delays can also disrupt project staffing, requiring additional time and resources to maintain continuity. Team members retire, change roles, or leave organizations. The institutional knowledge surrounding these projects, why key decisions were made, what alternatives were considered, and what risks were evaluated begin to fade. As a result, delays often lead to a loss of continuity and efficiency. New team members must spend time reconstructing project history rather than advancing project delivery. Much like how a patient benefits from having the same doctor who knows their medical history, a project benefits from retaining the same personnel who understand its background and prior decisions. The longer the delay, the more likely that staff will need to be reoriented and working relationships reestablished among all parties. Regarding permitting and regulatory impacts, in many cases, a lot of these delays trigger new rounds of review and design work. Permit approvals and agency authorizations expire before a project advances to the next stage, requiring resubmittal, renewed agency review, and additional coordination. And some regulatory requirements may also change during the delay period, which require updated design standards, resiliency criteria, sustainability requirements, etc., or agency-specific policies that can necessitate redesigns of portions of a project that were previously agreed upon by everybody, but now are no longer compliant. So ultimately, New Yorkers wind up paying for the initial design and then additional changes that need to be made because of the delays. What this also reduces is competition from these costs. When agencies develop a reputation for lengthy processing time for contracts, amendments, invoices, or change orders, some firms just decide that the cost is not worth it. This goes ahead and reduces the number of firms who are willing to participate, which limits competition, may sometimes increase prices, and may not have as many innovative solutions for city agencies to choose from. Most importantly, this is a harm to the public, whether it is a new fire station, new resiliency projects. When these projects are delayed, it ultimately hurts all of us New Yorkers who just want to live a better life here.
Thank you so very much for your testimony. Questions from the commission?
Sorry. Quickly, Section 328 of the city charter specifically refers to the registration and contract by the controller. It also suggests parallel processes that could be followed in the event of different procurement methodologies are reached. I want to understand your suggestion about amending the part of that charter, because I think that's one of the areas that we need to work on when it comes to expedited payment, Ruth, to your point. So I want to understand more some of the suggestions you're making to amend that part. And the questions for the both of you.
So really the spirit of it or the power of what we are recommending is that it changes the incentive structure permanently. Right now, when there is a delay, in the registration of a contract or a change order, which can take, I have data here from the comptroller's checkbook website where change order registration can take 12 months. So all that time, the vendor is working at risk. They have no agreement to ensure, to enforce upon if that project, for whatever reason, there's an economic recession in those months, there's, project priority shift, they are working at risk. And so, this risk adds to their costs, adds financial strain to their relationships with their sub-consultants. A lot of these big projects, there are consortiums of many firms working together to pull it off. And all that money, is passed down to sub-consultants, so forth. Many times small firms, and they cannot withstand that risk, and they will stay out of the competition pool. And so really we want to shift that incentive structure to put the pressure on the city to find ways to get their processes done faster, to register that contract faster.
Yeah, and I think just to add really quickly, this is something that's already federal law, so the feds won't allow you to proceed on a project unless, the contract has gone through its full process. And just to support what Bill was saying, we represent firms that are one person to firms that are, 500, 1,000 people. And we're concerned about all of them, but especially for our small businesses, our MWBEs, maybe some that have 5, 10, maybe 20 people. Being able to work on a city project could be life-changing for their firms individually, but if the math doesn't work out, they don't have the capacity to be able to stretch out all that time without, being paid. And unfortunately, we are seeing a really big contraction of smaller firms in the market, either being acquired or just choosing not to work in New York City, period, just because it's such a challenging work environment to work in.
Carlene,
And
please.
just to follow up, because the same thing happens with
Henry,
nonprofits.
I'm sorry, Carlene's been on cue and I want to move us forward. And Ruth, I know that you're anxious to get in as well.
Well, thank you, Taylor, because you mentioned, it's Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the cost, the permitting, the new rounds of review, all of that leads to slower infrastructure projects. And we all know how important it is to create and preserve affordable housing. I did want to ask you, Bill, thank you for your service, of course, to the council specifically, if I may. You said you might have had a complimentary comment or an addition about the budget process that you wanted to add. You think you can give us that really quickly?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. It is simply that we recognize the cause of the delay along the path to getting a contract registered. Usually it's with OMB and it's the budget review process. We also understand, we work in partnership with the city, with the agencies. We're constantly talking. We understand, for example, agencies are locked out of the OMB system in the FMS lockout, periodically, and approvals totally closed down. So this is just to say, the second notion is, could the charter maybe be amended in some way that puts timeframes on OMB budget review? And I know that's challenging because life is messy and, there are competing processes and there's bills, there's hearings, and we have to testify. But, that is, if you're looking for a cause of the delay, part of this larger, delay in getting things registered, we know that is a cause. And
OMB's
maybe that could-
involvement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on? Yeah, I thought I saw your hand, Kathy. I wasn't certain.
Ask you to clarify. You're not suggesting this just be done for engineering contracts. You're suggesting, I mean, this is obviously a much larger issue.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, what we've recognized in this industry and, as of late, I think for everyone to be better, there's been a lot of attention, given to nonprofits as of late, and they're super important. But we'd also like to see some of those similar reforms extend to us as well, right? I think it's, piecemealing things is not a good thing, I think, in our opinion. Fix the system for everybody, so then we don't have to, go to the council, go to our agencies and say like, hey, like, we haven't been paid in X amount of time. We have some firms who are owed millions of dollars from the city going on years now for work that is, closed out and is done. So it's not appropriate and it shouldn't happen for anybody.
One final question from Ruth.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Murphy, I think you got into this responding to Councilmember Rivera, but I don't want us to understand this backwards. I understand the directive not to start work until the contract is registered. I think what we also need, whether it's a charter issue or a government issue, is what needs to be done to register these contracts faster.
Yes, absolutely. And our thinking is this will force the city to figure that out.
Good luck.
So it's kind of a bold, but
I mean, I think we also know, like, once things get to the comptroller, right, it's supposed to take 30 days, but when things leave agencies, they go ahead and negotiate on a contract, that takes a certain amount of time. It's going to OMB, there's a lack of clarity about what's going on, the agency may go back and forth with OMB, it's going through the whole process, and then it gets the comptroller, they may kick it back, right? So there's also just not a lot of data, a lot of honest data about how long things are actually taking, because it's not taking 30 days to register a contract or a change order.
Chair, if I may, so also just trying to get us to like things that feel like actual concrete suggestions that actually solve the underlying problem would be thinking about not just accelerating the registration or accelerating when contracts are what we are running into as nonprofits is that the contract registration date is now being extended, right? So how to also not potentially put private firms into that same bucket of now having a stretched out contract registration, and when the delay and precarity is like, do we just shift it? So I think trying to really understand how you all would tangle with that and recommendations around that.
Yeah, I think one thing in particular, also regarding OMB, when it comes to determining if things are capitally eligible or not, right? Like there's a certain amount of nuance and a certain amount of like flexibility that doesn't necessarily hold true for all projects. So we don't necessarily need people to decide, okay, this is capitally eligible one day and this is not. It should be the same for whatever kind of projects throughout the, universe, right? So then you can just move forward. There doesn't need to be all this conversation about what is allowed and what is not allowed. It should just be clear, firm, and like just get the paperwork going.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that instructive testimony. Charles Diamond, Robert Brunat. I don't know about you all, but I've already learned a considerable amount tonight. This has all been really quite fantastic.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Charles Diamond. I served the city for almost a decade, including as special counsel for the Mayor's Office of Contract Services under Chief Procurement Officer Lisa Flores, when we executed an aggressive reform package that took over 70 days off of the standard procurement timeline. Mr. Garrido, you were responsible for at least 50 of those, so you deserve credit. Councilmember, you voted for that when it happened as well, so you deserve credit as well. We also introduced unprecedented transparency tools, including Passport Public, the root of a lot of the data that Mr. McIntosh and Mr. Hickey talk about, as well as moving to an online comment process for contract public hearings. We were able to achieve a lot. And if we're talking about a commission on government efficiency, there's no way this commission can end its work without a big part of it being procurement, because it is so big. I'm here to advocate for the commission to undertake a comprehensive procurement reform package. I have submitted a detailed written testimony with about 7 specific points. I'll highlight 2 for you now. First, requiring advanced published procurement planning by agencies beyond what is required for Health and Human Services contracts, and centralized post hoc value for money reporting through MOCs. Second, requiring emergency procurement planning similar to our current COOP planning, but instead of being focused on agency operations under emergency conditions, planning for a dramatic increase in an agency's contracting portfolio. We've spent at least $15 billion in emergency contracting since 2020. We can't pretend that it's not going to happen very, very soon again. Let's talk about the scale of the problem. I've had a lot of people talk about it already. I love it. Usually I'm the only one talking about procurement. We spend about $40 billion annually in new contracts. That's new contracts. So if you talk about what our contract commitments are at any one moment in time, it's surely over $100 billion. So a 1, 2, 3% increase in our contract efficiency and our procurement efficiency, we're talking about billion-dollar percentages. That's what those percentages represent. As we've already talked about, participants already know this process is Byzantine, it's repetitive, it's complicated, and yet all of this bureaucracy has not stopped a constant feed of fraud, waste, and corruption. As I like to say, at our worst, our procurement system is like the immigration line at an international airport, where it takes an hour and then you get through it, you think, gosh, if anyone was really trying to game the system, I bet you they could. In that sense, it's so complicated, and yet we still have bad outcomes. That's just fraud, waste, and corruption, let alone just bad business outcomes. So we can't pretend like the system is working well, because it's not. Procurement reform drives prices down, improves the quality of services received by limiting cost and time overruns. People have already spoken about that. Reducing administrative burdens. People have already spoken about that. Paying vendors on time, as people have spoken about, so we can become a competitive business partner, not charge the New York City premium on every single thing that we buy, because we most certainly are right now. And perhaps most importantly,
You're at time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just advocate that beyond just the proposals that I'll submit in written testimony, as Mr. Hickey said, that this be a start of the conversation about comprehensive procurement reform, because again, can't do government efficiency without procurement. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Brunat. I am a lifelong Brooklyn resident, and I am speaking tonight as a representative of construction and general building laborers, Local 79. Our union is the largest concentration laborers local in the United States, with over 10,000 members, the majority of whom live within the 5 boroughs. We are proud to be a part of the Laborers International Union of North America and the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York. We represent the essential workers who build New York City. Laborers Local 79 supports the Commission on Government Efficiency's mission to deliver public excellence for all New Yorkers. Infrastructure keeps our city running. Streamlining government processes for infrastructure should ensure efficient project delivery for communities. On-time payment helps projects stay on schedule and means stability for workers and their families. Centralized permitting can improve government functions and transparency. However, no reform should create a fast pass for exploitation. We ask the Commission to make sure any proposals do not undermine long fought for regulations that provide necessary protections and oversight for workers and the community. Jumping the line on special consideration should only be available to firms committed to strong labor standards. We are ready to do public work that creates a better New York City. Our members also rely on transportation, energy, and housing infrastructures for their daily lives as well. Any new programs such as building decarbonization should also support workforce opportunities for apprenticeship training and family-sustaining careers. We cannot solve the affordability crisis without solving the low-wage crisis. Economic development will only succeed if it invests in workers. We need to prioritize infrastructure investments that delivers a better quality of life to improve the lives of New Yorkers for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions?
The submission you're going to give, does it point to the areas of the charter specifically?
So absolutely, Ms. Wild. So I think in particular, we look at emergency procurements, that's Charter 315. The council earlier this year passed some legislation. I testified beforehand. They made some adjustments. To be quite frank, that ensconced current practice. I've detailed a couple of suggestions on Charter 315 where we could make it more accountable, always be having an off-ramp. So then Charter 315, we mentioned Charter 328, we mentioned procurement timelines. I've identified a couple, I would say 4 distinct parts of that chapter of the charter where we could make some specific reforms. It's a really important point. Something like procurement in particular, one part of it is charter reforms. Huge part, state law, operational government doing our job better, unfortunately, is a giant part of it that perhaps this commission can't touch. But what we can do is change emergency procurement in 315. But then also the Mayor's Office of Contract Services has now been written in by, again, another very, very good council action. We now need to write them in so we have strategic sourcing. We've touched upon the topic that OMB is, of course, looking at the budget process, but the budget process is different than a procurement planning process. That was not written into the charter in '89. Now is an opportunity for us to write into the charter the idea of strategic sourcing, other than the idea of agency ACO says it's good value for money. That's the only thing that is this a good deal in the entire process as an ACO says it. Most of our ACOs are heroes. I'm not disputing their work, but I think we're at a point where we can do a more holistic
10
process.
more seconds.
Sorry, sir.
No, don't apologize. That was fantastic. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Procurement inefficiencies are a significant issue in every city in the country. And New York City is not an exception in that regard. Is there a city in the country that really has set an example for how it should be done and recently? And what specific reforms have they utilized that have worked while keeping fraud in check?
It's a fantastic question. We have an unfortunate problem of a scale problem. We're by far the largest municipality in the United States. Sometimes that seems semantic. In the idea of procurement, it matters. We are 5 counties in one, so we buy at a much different scale than LA or Chicago. It's completely different in scale, so we lead the way. In a way, I would say this. We have good people at Mox who follow this stuff. I would actually say there was a fantastic recent study by a Labour Party affiliated group in the UK about how actually we should be doing 10% non-competitive procurements in areas where we don't have a very healthy portfolio of companies. Again, interesting things that we can follow, but our guidelines are nations, not even really even US states. So we have a scale problem there, but we are the leaders. But that means we have to be very creative. But that is, I think, one of the crucial problems. We are an outlier. It's Tokyo, it's Mexico City that we need to be looking at.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to now call on Martha Snow and Devon Lomax.
Good evening. My name is Martha Snow, and I'm the Director of Community Design at the Urban Design Forum, a member-powered organization of more than 1,200 civic leaders working to design, build, and care for a better New York City. Through our Local Center initiative, a partnership with the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development, we've worked alongside neighborhood leaders in 17 low-income communities across all 5 boroughs to activate parks, plazas, and streets. We have seen what becomes possible when local leaders are resourced and supported. We have also seen up close what gets in the way. The barriers are structural, and many of them live in the systems this commission is here to reform. First, our permitting systems are broken. Activating a public space means navigating a fragmented maze. The Department of Transportation, Parks, the Street Activity Permit Office, and others with no uniform process and no single point of accountability. We recommend accelerating SAPO permitting and creating a single regulatory interface so neighborhood organizations can actually get to work. In addition, DOT should be made legally able to make grants to nonprofit partners to ease the burden on the Department of Small Business Services and other agencies with grant-making authority. Second, temporary installations have no pathway to permanence. Community-built structures, the products of years of engagement that improve the quality of life and often become beloved social infrastructure. However, they must come down after 365 days with no clear route to lasting change. The Public Design Commission's 1-year rule should be extended to at least 2 years with defined pathways from pilot projects to permanent solutions. And finally, civil service rules are limiting government's own capacity to deliver. Cumbersome exam requirements, infrequent testing dates, and pay scales disconnected from the private sector make it hard to fill critical positions in housing and public realm agencies. The city should modernize civil service by removing unnecessary barriers to hiring, creating pay parity and performance incentives, and upgrading the technology infrastructure that underlies interagency coordination. New Yorkers in every neighborhood deserve public spaces that work. This commission has a real opportunity to remove the obstacles that have accumulated for decades. Urban Design Forum looks forward to being a resource to the commission as that work moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, hear me? Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Devon Lomax. I'm the Political Director of District Council 9, Painters and Allied Trades. We represent 10,000 men and women in the construction and finishing trades industry. Thank you for the opportunity. Our members help build and maintain New York City. We construct, preserve housing, schools, hospitals, transportation systems, public facilities, and critical infrastructure that New Yorkers rely on every day. But we do not simply build the city. We live here, we raise our families here, and we have a direct stake in its future. We want to help create a New York where working people can continue to afford to live, work, and raise a family. Because our members work on projects throughout every borough and interact with city agencies at every stage from construction to maintenance, we have a unique perspective on what happens when projects move forward and creates unnecessary delays and increased costs and barriers to delivering public benefits. We understand the importance of efficiency because our members are the workforce responsible for delivering these projects. The skilled workforce is not an obstacle to efficiency, it is one of its foundations. Through our registered apprenticeship programs, DC9 provides one of the most successful workforce development systems in the country. These programs create pathways to the middle class for working New Yorkers from every neighborhood and every background. For generations, union construction opportunities for immigrants, communities of color, veterans, public housing residents, and working families seeking stable careers. You know, the city actually has a built-in apprenticeship model already that was created maybe about 10 years ago, creating the first ever painter apprenticeship model. We were able to get over 100 NYCHA residents into our apprenticeship program and change their lives. So we know this works and it's already built in. So we should definitely, we recommend that we expand these apprenticeship opportunities through city projects. Also, as the Commission examines ways to improve efficiency and accountability, it's equally important to distinguish between responsible contractors and those who repeatedly fail to meet their obligations. You know, one of the things we always talk about is what is the definition of responsible? Everyone says responsible contractor. Well, we recommend examining what that actually means. So look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, please.
I had a question for you. You mentioned a single regulatory interface for permitting. Can you just talk a little bit about that very briefly?
Yeah, sure. So we, as I mentioned, work with Department of Transportation, Parks, others. And I think, what we've really seen is that the kind of entry point into understanding the permitting process for community-based organizations is rather opaque. And that, I think we'd been in conversation with folks like the director of the public realm and others about, if there's a kind of single entry point so that folks know where to go and can really understand whether they're permitting on a perk space, a DOT space, things like that. Yeah, so happy to follow up with more details as well. I know, many of our members are, even more in the weeds on some of these recommendations, so happy to share more information as well.
Thank you.
Please.
Could you say one more word or two about the apprenticeship programs? And I guess I would be interested in knowing whether there might be a system in which contractors that offer apprenticeship programs get additional benefits from the system.
Let's start crowding some of our questions together. So Ruth's question and Henry's.
My question is about this commission is charter, in the city charter, right? And some of the recommendations you made about the civil service system are actually done by the State Civil Service Commission. That requires state law, not city charter amendment. So in your point about pay parity and other issues, it is not a creature of the city. And so I was just wanting to make the clarification because the State Civil Service Commission makes those rules, not the cities.
So we have clarification between city and state and a pointed question about the training programs.
Yeah, so our apprenticeship program, all of the different building trades unions have an apprenticeship programs, which is second to the military in training throughout the United States. What I was mentioning is that in the city, they have a painter apprenticeship program, a painter apprenticeship title, sorry. And what I was recommending was that we should expand that in not to just other trades, but into every agency where we can actually change people's lives, because we already seen what it could do with NYCHA when we created that program that many years ago. And so far, we actually have painter apprentices in health and hospitals. And so the apprenticeship programs, a lot of them are based in Queens. And, it's a full-blown training center where it's either 3, 4, or 5-year apprenticeship model, and they learn everything about their trade. And as they finish their program, they're full-fledged journey persons. And they are paid while they're apprentices. So there's a big misconception that apprentices aren't paid, but they are full-blown union members, and they get paid while they train and learn.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for your testimony. We would now love to hear from Fabian Levy and Rich O'Malley. Is Fabian present?
Yeah, I'm Fabian.
And Rich? Rich does not appear to be here, so I will invite Diego Opperman to join us. Diego? Great, thank you. Fabian, feel free to start.
Good evening. My name is Fabian Levy. I am the former Deputy Mayor for Communications for the City of New York. I am, like you, Chair, a former member of the Obama administration. I also have worked for Attorney General Letitia James, Governor Kathy Hochul, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and numerous other elected officials and candidates across the nation. But more importantly, I am a resident of New York City, specifically Manhattan. I'm here tonight to discuss how to make our city government more efficient, specifically by being more representative of our city population by adopting open, or what some may call jungle primary elections and city elections. I'm here to lend my personal voice to this cause as someone who has worked on different political campaigns in multiple cities across the nation. Specifically, in 3 of the races I have worked on, in conservative Louisiana, in liberal California, and in middle-of-the-road Jacksonville, Florida, red, blue, and purple, my candidates have participated in jungle primaries where the top 2 vote getters moved on to a general election or a runoff. These races ensured all the candidates were trying to speak to as large of a swath of voters as possible, not just the consistent voters who often participate in closed primaries like myself. I also want to point out that I'm not in support of jungle primaries because my past candidates did well in these races. In fact, in all 3 of the races I've worked on with open or jungle primaries, my candidates did not move on to the general election or lost the general or runoff election. On the contrary, in the numerous local or statewide races that I've worked on that had closed primaries, my candidates actually won those elections. This, however, is not about winning elections, but about ensuring we do what's best for our city. and that is having every voice heard, even if my candidate of choice does not always win. That's how our system of government should operate. You examine why our elections, especially our primaries, have such low voter turnout. It's because our system is rigged to turn voters away. Why is that? Why is it that in New York City, you can register to vote in the election up to 10 days before election day, but changing from an unaffiliated voter, for example, to a Democrat or Republican has to happen more than 4 full months before an election. That means that this year, to register to vote in the upcoming June primary, which is obviously state and federal races, the deadline to register is still 4 days away. To change your party registration from unaffiliated, let's say, to Democrat, you have to have changed that affiliation 115 days ago or 129 days before our upcoming primary. That's about 4 months sooner than most voters start paying attention to a race. Among those most disenfranchised by our current closed primary system are young people. I know this firsthand because I was once one of those young people who thought I could vote in a primary, but I was told no because the deadline to change from an unaffiliated voter, which I registered as before I was 18 years old and didn't know much about party politics, was long before the voter registration deadline in that election. I've been registered Democrat since that time, about 2 decades ago. This unfair set of rules is why so many major cities across the nation have adopted open primaries and why so many good government groups support it. For years, my fellow Democrats have rightly said every vote must be counted. So if every vote should be counted, why would we be restricting legal citizens from voting in the first place? I simply believe, like I would hope many of you would, that every vote should count. And if we do believe that every vote should count, then every potential voter should have the ability to vote whatever party they belong to, or even if they do not belong to a party. I encourage the commission to consider all of the testimony from last year's
you're
charter
at time.
commission on this topic and put forward a ballot measure that supports open primaries this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Diego?
Hi, I'm Diego. I'm a local 40 iron worker. I've worked on projects like the Queensboro Bridge, Park Avenue Viaduct, various MTA projects, and in the NYCHA houses as well. And like a lot of other people in the building trades, including some of my union brothers and sisters will be speaking later, I wanted to make some points regarding infrastructure projects. So the first I would like to say is that the current system for infrastructure projects, whether the execution or the permitting of the projects, bless you, results in a tremendous amount of money and time being dedicated to navigating city bureaucracy, and it leaves people like me sitting at home waiting for things like this to clear, and it means that we get to spend less of our time directly building the infrastructure that we know that ordinary New Yorkers need, including ourselves. So we see delayed projects, cost overruns, workers sitting at home, machines sitting idle. This may be a good situation for certain type of consultant, but not for us in the building trades or I think for ordinary New Yorkers. Our experience in the field is concurs with a report from the comptroller's office that I think was released a couple of years ago, saying that the city hasn't hit its spending targets regarding capital projects a single time in the last 10 fiscal years. Sometimes spending as little as 50% of the target, and this is despite cost overruns and delays that you would think usually help reach spending targets, but apparently not in this case. So we're of the opinion that streamlining the process for, at least I am, streamlining the process for infrastructure projects would it would make it easier for us to go to work and for us to provide essential infrastructure for New Yorkers. I would concur with the gentleman from the Carpenters Union who is suggesting that that we be involved as the building trades in all phases of planning and execution. I personally been on jobs where one old timer sees something that 8 engineers have not yet understood, and it's I think not correct that the people that plan and execute the work be so far apart. I would also agree with other people that have said that government efficiency is no excuse for allowing exploitation. And one thing that we hear about, but that we don't see on the union side, is prevailing wage fraud, which is when contractors pocket the difference between a worker's hourly wage and the legal minimum they're supposed to be paid. It's one of the most common forms of wage theft nationwide. It undercuts union labor and it exploits what is typically workers coming from among the most vulnerable, the working population in New York. So we would ask that anything in the direction of efficiency make sure that this kind of dual exploitation that's much more common than we would all want to be taken care of.
Thank you so very much, Diego. Questions?
Chair, if I may, you ask the question to the first person?
Can you hold
Yeah,
one second? I
no,
just want to make sure there
of
aren't
course, of
any
course.
questions from the commission.
No, just, can I put on the record that the ironworkers and the carpenters agreed on something?
I know, I was impressed.
So.
I have a little bit of union envy as somebody who once had the privilege of representing service workers. I'm always jealous when folks from unions like yours can point to actual infrastructure in the city and say, I did that, I built that. I'm always so impressed by that.
It is one of the great parts of the job.
Please, Fabian, and then I have a question for you, actually.
Sure. Would you, please.
No, you first.
Well, you asked the first woman about some data, so I pulled some data to.
Yeah, and another person testified with the actual date.
Oh, okay.
So I think we cleared that
Great,
up.
no problem. Your
But I do
question.
have a question for you.
Yes,
So I thank you for your testimony. It's rather impressive. There's a word that you use though that's a pretty charged word, and I wonder if you could just kind of unpack it a bit.
Sure.
And that's the word rigged.
Yes.
There are many things about the way we vote that I find to be problematic and that I think requires like some real pressure to be put on it, reform, innovate, open it up.
Sure.
But when you use the word rigged, it speaks to intent, and I wonder if you might say just with a little bit of time that you have, if you might speak specifically to your notion of intent.
Absolutely. I think last year, if you look at the Charter Revision Commission that we had in place, I went and testified as a private citizen. I was a deputy mayor at that point. I did not let my boss know. I did not know. I sat there in line just like I did right now for 2 hours and I testified. Overwhelming testimony from that Charter Revision Commission was about open primaries and housing. And multiple people on that Charter Revision Commission told me specifically that they were told that if open primaries goes on the ballot, there's gonna be people that are going to be elected officials specifically that would be rallying against the housing proposals. So basically, if you go after this, we're gonna go after your other thing. Sorry.
Okay. So see,
A council member, I believe I see right there, she just said, that's true.
Okay.
it sounds like Gail Brewer in the background.
Yes.
Thank you, Fabian.
No problem.
No other questions. So I think you gave us the appropriate bridge to our council member. So please, Council Member Brewer, if you would join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
You mean to suggest that Gail Brewer has a strong opinion on a thing? Shocking. Council member?
Thank you very much, Chair Gaspard and everybody. So I am Gail Brewer, City Council. I will be submitting,
I was her intern once, so.
yes, he was.
I was her
As a-
student.
Oh, my God.
We'll just go down, we'll do a poll
Oh,
after.
boy. Emma.
I text her.
Oh, God. Thank you very much. And this is an exciting proposal, but I will point out that there have been, and I think somebody must have said this, 1989, 1998, 1999, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2010, 2, and 2018, one of which Tish James and I passed a law about, which included representatives from different levels of government, that de Blasio did his own, 2019 and 2024, and then I don't know how many in 2025, at least 3. So I've tried to look at some of the past discussions of infrastructure and public realm, but it seems to me just in the very broadest, and there are many more people here who have much more specifics than I do, but the notion of infrastructure and building it, obviously the school construction authority is very popular, and they have built really good schools. I mean, sometimes it might be a gym that's coordinated with an auditorium, and you don't like that, but basically the schools are healthy, they are well-built, they have what is needed for the students of the future. The ones that Josh Wallach did that sit empty and some, they're beautiful. Those are really great. So all I'm saying is, so now what's the equivalent? Is it DDC? Is it DDC taking over other agencies? When you talk to the libraries, DDC builds them. They do a beautiful job, but they're expensive. There's a lot of admin costs. So I don't know how to balance that. The costs of DDC, the efficiency of DDC versus cultural affairs, housing, meaning HPD, et cetera. Who's building, who's the equivalent of the school construction authority for the building world that would be everything else? I don't know, I know the answer, but I know that is something we should consider. And I think you need a long discussion about what DDC could or could not do. And that could be a way to solve, would there be efficiencies in having, I'm making this up, the library folks and the library and the cultural folks and so on, sharing whatever is appropriate. So that's something to think about. The second thing is just, I also want to make sure that this, on the public realm front, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I am very excited about what the streets could provide. We're all trying to think, okay, what's the sidewalk now? What's the street now? Is it a bike? Is it a bus? Is it a pedestrian? Is it, does the, you know, the guy with the Amazon cart, where does he go? Where does everybody go? And that's the public realm to me. I don't know if that's what it is for everybody else. And it needs a lot of thought. I'm dealing with bike lanes all day long. And so we want it, but how, it's not thought out in a comprehensive way. It's a little bit, understandably, want to build bus lanes, want to build bike lanes, but it hasn't been completely thought out. So that could use some help. I love open streets, but if you don't have a neighborhood that somebody is paying attention to, programming it with movies and face painting and so on, it sits there, doesn't attract a lot of excitement. So then you talk about public realm. What is that? Who's in charge of it? How is it being programmed? Is there funding for the programming? And again, is there funding for coordination of the streets? Police do have to be involved. Somebody has to help traffic that. So those are my immediate thoughts on these two huge topics. But I will put
Councilmember,
something in writing.
I hesitate to say this to you, but you're at time.
Thank you.
But I will grant you 30 more seconds if it's urgent.
That's perfect. And thank you very much for doing this. And I will keep thinking about these ideas. They're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm certain that there are many questions for you.
I doubt it.
I have
I do not want one
to
from
go.
Ruth Messenger. That's some. she
Coun-
knows
Councilmember,
everything.
I have two questions.
Oh,
One is,
shit.
I mean, because you were speaking very fast, so I just want, the first question is, were you talking in public realm? Were you talking about the fact that there are now, at least I'm aware of, two large companies that are using public streets and public space and bike lanes as their dispersion centers and taking up huge amounts of public space?
Yes. When I say about the streets, it's like you don't even, there's a loading zone, but guess what? The loading zone doesn't fit the 18-wheeler. That's what I'm dealing with. And it goes on and on from here. And then the one that's there for a few minutes unloading, and then there's the one that's there all day,
Yeah.
waiting for the carts to come and go. And then the complaints to 311. How to cut 311 complaints is address these issues.
For commissioners, in my neighborhood, there's huge amounts of public space that have now been taken claim by Amazon and by Fresh Direct. As if it was their business center. Councilmember, on another issue,
My
not,
name is Gail.
Gail, on another issue, not to be pursued tonight, I would love it if you would come back to testify to this commission about anything that we might do via the Charter Revision Commission that affects NYCHA, because in my judgment, you know more about NYCHA than anybody in city government.
All right, thank you very much.
Indeed, I know we have a question from Emma Wolf, and I'll just say that
That's
when
embarrassing, too.
Ruth Messenger accuses you of speaking too quickly, you've accomplished something.
Councilmember.
You better not do that, Emma Wolf.
Yeah, that's the last time I'll do it.
Please.
Professor,
That's true.
that's better. In all seriousness, I think the SCA idea is a great one. I'm sure folks have a lot of ideas. All I'm saying is there's going to be more of these hearings. And as you think about it more, certainly we'll do our homework more, but as you think about it more, I'm just asking that, you know, you encourage folks to come back and start fleshing it out.
I will. Thank you very much.
And may I just want to point the obvious. Hi, Gail. How are you?
Thank you,
Henry.
Henry.
The School Construction Authority is an authority and thereby an entity of the state, which has its own rules and procurements. I represent both. The work is on both. DDC, on the other hand, is a city agency, which has a lot of federal funding. And we've been talking about procurement reform, and I know you've been advocating for procurement reform for a very long time. What I would like to hear, since you were board president, right, at one point, is what sort of procurement reforms you could do that would make some of the same conditions that we follow in the School Construction Authority within the city agency, within DDC. That would be extremely helpful.
I wish I could do that right now. If it's okay with you, I have to think about it because I don't know that I could do that off the top of my head. But the procurement in general needs help, so you'd have to really spend some time before you said, let's go dump this into DDC, because you know what's going on with your culturals and all of your nonprofits right now, so.
I guess the question is, though, what we ought to be thinking about is how do we fix the system for everybody, not how to use a mechanism to get around it, which is what EDC does.
Okay, I mean, perfect situation. The question is, what is it that works for everybody that would be more streamlined? That's a good question. You know, Kathy always has good questions. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Tristan Lewis, Craig Coville. Please.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity for both the public and the industry to give constructive feedback. This is extremely important topic. My name is Craig Coville. I am president.
I'm really sorry. There's now a murmur. I know that Gail always creates a buzz in her way. There's a murmur in the room that I hope will quiet down. Thank you.
So my name is Craig Coville. I'm president of the Design Build Institute of America, a national organization. I am president of the New York City Metro region, which has 1,600 members. Our members include architects, engineers, surveyors, general contractors, specialist subcontractor and trade association members, owners, the whole gamut. And I'm pleased to see that my other trade associations have either already testified or going to testify. This is probably one of the few times where you've seen the GCA, Construction Managers Association, the ACEC, AIA, STA, we're all here. So this is extremely important. As I said, DBIA includes our MWBE and our vets, and it includes 9 city agency members. So I can't remember them all, but DDC, City DOT, EDC, NYCHA, Public Housing Preservation Trust, they are all part of our membership as well. So important part of our membership. DBIA supports the Commission's initiative for improved efficiency and more accountability. We are an institution, so our main objective is education and sharing of knowledge, both nationally and internationally. So design build done right and best value procurement. In 2025, design build in the United States delivered more than 45% of all construction in the United States, infrastructure, buildings, and housing. In New York City, it is less than 20%, less than half of what the national number is. Design build delivers projects faster and more efficiently than design bid build and others. It is a tool in the toolbox. It is not the only delivery method, and I'm not here to say that everything should be design build. There are lots of tools in the toolbox: design bid build, P3s, construction management and risks. There are loads of great tools that should be used, and the city agencies and the departments should have that ability to do all of those. But design build delivers projects with more cost certainty and greater schedule confidence than design build and a lot of other delivery methods, and it's more collaborative. We are especially interested tonight to be able to talk to you about some of the aspects that our members, ourselves, we see as issues. And I think the issue is from the point of view of empowering and enabling.
You're right at time. I'll give you 30 seconds to close.
Empowering and enabling from the Controller's Office to those departments, the ability for them to have delegated authority with regards to contract changes, contract administration, procurement, permit approvals, and alignment with the Controller's Office. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
My name is Tristan Lewis. I'm a longtime resident of the city, as well as a serial technology entrepreneur in the city for the last 25 years. And one of the things that I want to talk about is actually a bit of a shift from a philosophical standpoint for the Commission when thinking about infrastructure. Today, all infrastructure projects are treated in the same way, but digital infrastructure is fundamentally different than any other infrastructure that exists. Digital infrastructure is currently one of the largest growing sector when it comes to employment in the city. It has grown and is now employing over 2 million people in the tri-state area. It is also servicing every agency and is being hindered by the procurement process. As a vendor in the technology space and a vendor particularly in the government technology space, because I'm also the president and CEO of Casebook PBC, which sells software to human services agencies, I have encountered this process, and I have encountered the resistance that investors have to investing in companies that are servicing government because of the procurement process. The challenge is that SaaS companies or AI companies are selling software either on a subscription or on a usage basis. The procurement process is primarily built on the idea of a prepackaged type of solution. It is something that worked very well in the 1980s, 1990s, but it is no longer something that works in today's world. In today's world, software is acquired mostly on an operational budget basis as opposed to being acquired on a capital expenditure basis. The current procurement process is asking you to work on an RFP. And so as a result, what is happening is that the only companies that will bid on those kinds of projects will be companies that are building custom solutions for the states, as opposed to operating models and providing you with a solution that is built iteratively over a period of time. Part of the challenge that exists through this is that each agency is trying a different approach to working with those vendors. As a result, what is needed for the city is a centralized office of digital technology, a centralized office that would not only deal with the industry, deal with the legal aspects of new technologies, and deal with the procurement issues of technologies for city agencies.
Please.
Just a question. Yes, thank you. How does that agency differ than Do It or whatever it's called now?
So the challenge.
It's called LTI now.
Yeah, the challenge as it exists with Do It is that Do It is just another step in the procurement process as far as a vendor is concerned. So today, for example, as I'll take the example of my own company. If I am selling into the health and human services agencies of the city, I will first go through the procurement process in the health office. Then I will go through OMB. Then I will go through Do It on top of it. It really furthers the overall process to a much longer timelines. And as a small startup, it leads most startups to go, it's not worth it. The cost of the pursuit is not worth it. The net result is that the agencies are presented with solutions that are not necessarily as innovative.
I was going to ask Craig, you didn't get to say what specifically would you change in the city charter?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Commissioner Wild. We are submitting a written, detailed, many pages testimony, so we will be in there. But what we've seen from other cities, both internationally and here, is the ability for the city to actually delegate that authority to a level within those agencies where they can actually do some of the actions of procurement, contract administration, permitting, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of other cities in this nation and overseas, those delegated powers are there. So we will, in our written testimony, provide that.
In other words, push it down as opposed to going through multiple agencies, push it into the agency?
Correct. What we're seeing is too many layers and everything has to go to the top for a decision.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things that go to the top are already decided and already documented at a lower level. So the idea being more efficient, more accountability overall, but the ability is push the decision to the meaningful, responsible level where it can be. It doesn't take away from the top of the power because the controller's office is still in control of everything. But the idea is to take some of those delegated duties and responsibilities they have and allow those to work in the agencies and departments lower.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, DDC, the design and build is a creature of the state. Controller doesn't have control right now under the current rules. Secondly, if you pass those to the agencies, there's a budget process that the city council would have to. So I guess my question in your proposal goes back to what Kathy said, it's what specific on the charter would you change, since it is, design build is a creature of the state that approves or denies within the state budget, what is designed and what's built throughout the process, and how would you amend it to reflect the fact the city council does have authority to authorize projects moving forward? If you put it on the agency, you're taking that authority away from them.
No, I didn't want to take authority away. I just want to delegate some of those aspects that go into that. At the moment, there's too many things that are going backwards and forwards with regard to the contract, getting it registered. It has to be registered at the top level. Then the contract from the point of view of the administration of it, the change management orders that go backwards and forwards, the permitting that goes backwards and forwards. Synthesizing that into a more efficient and accountable is better for the agencies, it's better for the trade and industry as well. And that's what we're saying.
May I amend my answer to your question? Another, yes?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think I answered the procurement part of your question, but what I'm advocating for is actually something larger. Because when you are looking at procurements, you're not, when you're looking at technology, you're not just looking at procurement. You're also looking at equity. You're looking at the legal aspects of an overall solution, and you are looking at the impact on the economy in terms of jobs in the city. And so it is not just a procurement question, it is a much broader question than just procurement.
Thank you. I believe we have one final question.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm not sure if this is in your proposed office, but how would you be contemplating existing technology systems and changes? I think we've all been a part of and seen agencies who have ballooning contracts for systems upgrades or who avoid it chronically for years, sometimes decades, in order to avoid that situation.
So first of all, this is not a problem that is unique to New York City, so be glad for that. Some of the cities that are doing a better job, cities like Houston, for example, or cities like Atlanta, or some of the countries that are doing a better job, Estonia is actually a perfect example of this, have not only created an agency to do the procurement and to centralize a lot of the build and design and distribution of those things, but within those agencies, they have a consulting component that works as a consultant to the other agencies. And so the other agencies come in when they have a particular need, when they need to upgrade their infrastructure, and then it is the responsibility of that centralized agency to look at how that integrates with maybe other plans or with a vendor maybe that is going across, and to negotiate the contracts across agencies. So the net result is that when they're negotiating the contract across agencies, they can actually realize economies of scale and therefore get lower costs from the vendors.
Great. Thank you, Barika, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I'd like to now invite Nick Gargiglia and Andrea Harris. Nick, apologies if I've mispronounced your last name. Nick? Ah, there we go. And Andrea Harris?
Nobody can speak my, pronounce my last name, so don't worry about it. And no, I haven't read every page of the charter, but I hope you don't, expel me from the room. Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Nick Worley. I'm the advocacy manager for the New York Offshore Wind Alliance, as well as the Alliance for the Clean Energy New York, and I'm here to discuss the importance of infrastructure investment as a core component of government efficiency and economic growth. When we talk about government efficiency, we often focus on reducing costs, streamlining operations, or improving service delivery. Those goals are important, but efficiency should also be measured by government's ability to plan for the future and deliver critical infrastructure in a timely manner. Infrastructure delays are themselves a form of government inefficiency. When projects are slowed by fragmented planning, insufficient coordination, duplicative processes, or a lack of long-term investment, New Yorkers ultimately bear the cost of higher expenses, missed economic opportunities and delayed public benefits. As the Commission evaluates opportunities to improve how government functions, I encourage you all to consider the critical role of port infrastructure and electric grid readiness play in New York City's future. A modern, efficient port infrastructure helps drive economic development, create jobs, and positions New York City as a competitive hub for commerce and industry. To achieve these outcomes, the city must proactively invest in the waterfront facilities, transportation connections, and support infrastructure that can meet the demands of a growing economy. New York City's ports and waterfront assets are among the region's greatest economic advantages. Investments in these facilities should keep in mind our renewable energy industry, but also extend beyond the operations and management's needs for offshore wind, although it's still very important, and focus on strengthening the broader supply chain, supporting industrial activity, and facilitating the movement of manufactured goods. At the same time, economic growth depends on reliability and resilient energy infrastructure. As the electrification expands and energy demand continues to increase across transportation, buildings, industry, and emerging technologies, I encourage the city to work closely with Con Edison and other stakeholders to identify the infrastructure upgrades necessary to meet the future needs. That planning should include investments in transmission systems, substations, points of interconnection, and other infrastructure readying the grid for delivery of large-scale energy generation from renewable sources, all of which will be required to support residents, businesses, and future economic development. Government efficiency means identifying these needs before they become constraints. It means improving coordination between city agencies, utilities, and infrastructure developers so that investments can be planned proactively rather than reactively. It means ensuring
Nick, you're at time. If you can wrap up.
Gotcha. I did want to say that, of course, we can do this all with good quality work from union laborship, and I encourage the commission to view all these investments.
Thank you. Andrea?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Andrea Harris. I'm a New York City resident, a consistent voter, and someone who cares deeply about the future of our city. I'm also the proud mother of a daughter who serves in active duty in the U.S. military. This commission has been charged with identifying ways to make government work better for New Yorkers. And if that's truly the goal, then we really should begin to ask the simple question, does our election system work for everyone? For military personnel and families and military veterans, the answer is clearly no. A large number of service members and veterans are not registered with a political party. New York City's closed primary system effectively excludes those voters from participating in elections where many of our leaders are actually chosen. Many of our armed forces swear an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, not a political party. They're trained to put mission before politics and country before party. Many veterans and military families carry these values throughout their lives and therefore choose to remain politically independent. Under our current system, independence comes with a penalty. Voters who choose not to affiliate with a political party are excluded from participating in these primary elections. The statistics show that, as you've heard before, that there's approximately 1.2, 1.4 million of voters unaffiliated. And it's estimated by veteran groups that at least 700,000 of those voters are veterans or active duty personnel. If this commission is serious about making government work better, then government must work better for those who serve. I respectfully request this commission to review the work of last year's Charter Revision Commission and adopt the recommendations to let the voters decide whether to open our primaries. That's it.
Thank you so much. Questions, commissioners?
I was wondering, thanks so much for your testimony, Nick. What specifically would you suggest in terms of a charter commission to sort of integrate your suggestions about like power grid readiness and renewable energy sources?
So I think that a lot of what we see in the renewable energy industry is that there's a duplicative services that we have to, within the industry, that we have to abide by, not only on the city level, but also on the state level. And I think greater coordination between not only different sectors of government in the city, but also coordinating more with state policy as well would be helpful. I could submit more information on that, writing if you would like.
Thank you so very much. We would now like to invite testimony from Ashley Roloffs and Corey Hannigan. Thank you. Ashley?
Evening. My name is Ashley Roloffs, and I am a program coordinator at Trust for Public Land, a national nonprofit committed to connecting everyone to the outdoors. We have worked in New York City for decades to protect land and transform schoolyards and underutilized spaces across all 5 boroughs. Thank you for opening this hearing to the public. I want to highlight 6 concrete areas where changes to city processes would make nonprofit partners more effective and stretch public dollars further. First, advance a portion of city funding to nonprofit partners upfront. Nonprofits doing city-funded work must borrow most often at commercial rates while waiting for reimbursement, and then fundraise to cover the interest. Philanthropic dollars are effectively paying banks for city-funded projects. Advancing even a portion of grant funding at the outset would solve this. Second, pay us back within 30 days. Reimbursement timelines vary widely across city agencies. A citywide 30-day standard enforced consistently would reduce borrowing costs and help nonprofits plan. Some agencies already do this well. Make that the rule, not the exception. Third, build maintenance funding into capital projects. A facility or open space built without a maintenance budget is a future liability. Requiring a funded maintenance plan as a condition of capital approval would prevent deterioration and save money long-term. Fourth, shorten the lag between budget adoption and disbursement, especially for Reso A funds. The current 4-month delay disrupts project timelines and increases borrowing. Even a modest reduction would make a meaningful difference. Fifth, improve cross-agency coordination on capital projects. Siloed decision-making adds time, cost, and duplication. Other cities, including internationally, have developed coordination models that work. We encourage the Commission to look at those examples. Sixth, audit and streamline capital process steps. Some approval sequences have accumulated steps over time that may no longer be necessary. A plain language review of each step still needed could reduce friction without sacrificing accountability. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Just a quick point. Should I assume that in addition to the testimony you just delivered, that you will also submit the comparative analysis with other cities that you're aware of who have these processes in place? I just want to take up Ruth Messenger's suggestion from earlier.
Yes, we can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Please, Corey.
Right, good afternoon. My name is Corey Hannigan. I'm the Policy and Government Relations Director for Safe Streets at Transportation Alternatives. We applaud the Mamdani administration's efforts to simplify bureaucratic processes and speed up infrastructure redesigns because New York City knows what works best on our streets, but it's failed to scale our proven best practices to reach every corner of the city. Currently, rolling out proven safety improvements can be slow and onerous. Months and sometimes years of stakeholder engagement are required to bring our streets in line with best practice, inflating project costs and delaying crucial safety projects. To reach every neighborhood and protect every New Yorker, the city needs to shorten its timelines for implementing tested standard safety redesigns. When a protected bike lane is proposed and presented to a community, the DOT has already conducted months of outreach, analysis, and research, and the design is professionally drafted in accordance with all local, state, and federal guidelines. From there, additional months of outreach and delays cost time, money, and lives. With hundreds of deaths and thousands of serious injuries on our streets every year, we can't afford to keep waiting for these projects. For example, DOT incorporates emergency response management and FDNY consultation into its planning from the start, but it is then required to provide proposed street designs specifically for Fair House's formal approval afterwards. This process is duplicative, and without a clear timeline for responses, life-saving projects can be delayed by local firehouses simply by not responding to the DOT's outreach. In line with standard FDNY-approved accessibility guidelines, street safety projects like protected bike and bus lanes reduce the number and severity of crashes on our streets, helping save lives without first responder involvement and freeing up their capacity for other emergencies. They also provide open lanes to allow fire trucks and ambulances to bypass traffic and improve access to hydrants, speeding up emergency responses. Imposing a sensible timeline during which the station house can register objections or removing the requirement for duplicative comment entirely would help the DOT install more life-saving safety improvements faster. Additionally, the city's popular outdoor dining program has also been severely hampered by unnecessary bureaucratic requirements like seasonal limitations and high fees. Only about 1,300 businesses are fully approved for outdoor dining this year, down from the high of roughly 8,000 during the COVID-era temporary program, which had created 100,000 jobs at its peak. The more onerous and time-intensive the process is, the fewer outdoor dining opportunities are available to New Yorkers, harming local businesses, abandoning the immunocompromised, and reducing tax revenue and failing to capitalize on the opportunity presented by a Summer World Cup. And the current process makes it hard for outer borough businesses who need it most. Only 38% of the businesses currently approved for outdoor dining are located outside of Manhattan. So we support streamlining the application process and call for eliminating the duplicative processes for street bed and sidewalk dining, making the program year-round, easing or removing city council and community board notification requirements, and creating simpler and more flexible sidewalk and curbside specifications, licensing, and liability requirements. No matter where they live, every New Yorker deserves streets that are both safe and full of life. And they deserve a city that works to make it easier, not harder, to make that happen. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you so much, Corey. Questions, commissioners?
I have a question,
Please.
Ashley, regarding the advancement for the nonprofit. Have you considered what a percentage of that advancement? Is it 50%? Is it 70%? And in cases where the city would need to recoup because of any problems, what would that process look like?
Thank you for the question, and I would like the chance to follow up with an answer, if that's okay.
Please.
Transportation alternatives, you use very quickly a statistic, which I assume is accurate, that fewer open, whatever they're called, restaurants now than in COVID, significantly loss of jobs. I guess I'm wondering, is it your sense or from a poll that restaurants would open these facilities again at the level that they were at during COVID with the resulting jobs if we made the process easier or not?
I wouldn't say at the same exact level, but certainly there are businesses across the city that are eager to expand back to, the footage and seats they had during the temporary program.
Thank you.
Thank you. One quick question, Ashley. You noted that there are some citywide agencies that have taken it upon themselves to impose this 30-day standard for reimbursements. Do you know how many agencies that are abiding by that? I was not aware of just how uneven this is across the agencies.
I don't personally, I apologize, but I'll make a note of that and then follow up with an answer.
Great. Thank you so very much. Okay, please.
Just a real quick question, follow up on outdoor dining. Can you say a little bit more about specific reforms you're looking for with respect to the charter to help streamline some of the issues you've discussed?
Yeah, and certainly I'd like to follow up, with a detailed outline, but the primary aspect we're looking at is, first of all, the year-round aspect, right? Currently, with it being seasonal only, it's a huge cost for businesses to pay for the construction of their outdoor dining at the beginning of the season and then pay to either construct or store it over the winter months, only to do that again in the next year. That we've heard that's been a really big burden. So removing that rule would be huge, as well as addressing what the actual minimum fee would be required to apply for this. We've heard, yeah, I'll get back to you with the specifics and share that.
Thank you so much.
Chair?
Thank you for. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
just Ashley, it doesn't need to be answered now, but if you can get back to us on a timeline for the recommendation on the maintenance plan and what you all are proposing in terms of what that would be.
Well, thank you.
Apologies, Barika, sorry. Thank you so much for your testimony. We'd now like to hear from Michael Grunert and Bria Donahue. Michael and Bria. Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Grunner, and I'm a proud Local 3 member. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of the skilled, hardworking men and women of Local 3 International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Being part of the workforce which builds these infrastructure projects, we uniquely understand the importance of streamlining the efficiency of said processes. Our members not only build our communities of New York, but we live in them too and have direct stake in its future. As the Commission considers ways to improve efficiency, we encourage you think more holistically about infrastructure projects and efficiency. Build more, build faster, build better. Most importantly, build union. Building unions builds pathways, a pathway to the middle class. For generations, union construction has provided economic opportunity for immigrants, communities of color, veterans, and working families seeking careers with economic security, healthcare, proper training through a rigorous and approved apprenticeship, college degrees, and a self-funded pension program, and so much more. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gaspard and members of the Commission for holding today's hearing. My name is Bria Donahue, Director of Government Affairs at the American Institute of Architects New York chapter. And New York is the leading design nonprofit representing 5,000 architects and design professionals committed to positively impacting the physical and social qualities of our city. We commend Mayor Mamdani for his demonstrated leadership and commitment to responsible use of public dollars, ensuring our city is effectively delivering public goods and building a quality, resilient public realm. The 700+ pages of the city's charter are really meant to reflect the city's priorities and rules for operations. However, the layers of bureaucracy have stifled the city's ability to deliver critical projects in an efficient and cost-effective manner. This restrictive and overly cautious nature of our current system makes it a challenge to operate and deliver projects for both agencies and design professionals. When we burden projects with so many boxes to check and hoops to jump through, how can we expect to deliver high-quality public goods in a way that taxpayers can trust that the city is getting the most bang for its buck? We recommend the Commission evaluate the following reforms to the city charter. First, launch a coordinated citywide capital planning process. Agencies often plan and budget projects independently with limited shared data, leading to missed opportunities to coordinate and difficulty advancing citywide priorities. By coordinating capital project priorities and conducting more front-end planning, the city can identify opportunities to maximize co-benefits such as utility and infrastructure coordination, permit approvals, and minimizing construction disruptions. Smart, comprehensive planning enables the city to deliver quality projects with the mentality of do it once and do it right. Second, prioritize qualifications-based selection, QBS. Provide flexibility to capital agencies to select.
You're at time, if you could.
All of this is in my written comments.
Apologies.
All good.
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Any questions? Fantastic. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry to be a tough ref. Henry Sutherland and Catherine Vaughn.
Good evening. My name is Henry Soderlin, and I represent Local 3, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. This hearing is about streamlining projects. Local 3, as far as I've been in the business over 5 decades, has been an integral part of the neighborhood, the community, and the 5 boroughs of New York. You see so much interaction between the way Local 3 and the building trades interact and streamline projects. We realize every agency, what their protocol is, what their safety measures are, and we bring the best possible product to the community. No doubt, not just with our intellectual ability to change the dynamic of the situation through verbalization, visualization, professionalism, and safety. So if we're looking to keep this government going strong and streamlining projects, you really need to keep the building trades intact. And I know someone on this board asked about, are unions efficient? We're in the private sector. If you don't produce within 3 or 4 hours of starting a job, pretty much by the end of the day, you're going to be looking for work opportunity. So if we want to continue this being the great city that it is, I just ask, and you want to streamline projects, always keep the building trades in what we're doing and continue what we're doing. God bless you and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Henry.
Chair Gaspard and members of the commission, thank you for your time and for your service. My name is Catherine Vaughn. I am the Executive Director of Abundance New York, a 5,000-member advocacy organization focused on making it easier, faster, and cheaper and fairer to build and deliver what New Yorkers need. I am also a member of Brooklyn Community Board 6, a renter, and the mother of 2 young children, so I also bring personal experience interacting and volunteering with local government. I'd like to offer 2 proposals tonight that fit squarely in tonight's scope. My first proposal concerns permitting. New Yorkers who want to build housing wait too long. A new residential building takes 18 months to permit and 4 years from filing to occupancy, time spent paying too much rent or waiting in a shelter. The delay is caused by how the process is structured. A single building requires separate permits and inspections from DOB, FDNY, DEP, Parks, and HPD, each on its own timeline with no single application and no single queue. The same fragmentation applies to clean energy. Installing a battery storage system requires 3 separate agency tracks, a DOB filing, a separate FDNY plan examination, and a utility interconnection application for a single installation. A rooftop solar project or heat pump faces a similar gauntlet. New York has among the highest residential electricity rates in the country, and this fragmentation holds back the distributed generation that would add supply. The 2026 state budget rolled back the CLCPA's 2030 targets, which makes fixing city-level permitting more urgent, not less. The Mamdani administration's speed report made real progress through executive action, but is explicit that consolidating permitting authority across agencies requires charter changes the executive cannot make alone. The commission should make 2 changes. First, designate DOB as the single permitting and inspection authority for all residential and commercial construction, with FDNY, DEP, and other agencies retaining their substantive standards while DOB administers them under 1 application and 1 inspection sequence, and delegate to DOB the authority to update the construction codes by rule. Second, consolidate clean energy permitting, rooftop and community solar, battery storage, heat pumps, EV charging, and interconnection sign-offs in a single office at the DEP, with 1 application and 1 inspection, and with the mayor retaining flexibility to relocate the function as long as it stays centralized. My second proposal concerns ULURP for public infrastructure. The city's own capital projects, firehouses, libraries, sewage treatment plants, face the same 7-month review as major private land use actions. The New York City Comptroller's 2023 audit found the fair share framework broken with no centralized compliance oversight. Voters approved the model last November. Ballot question 2 fast-tracked affordable housing projects in districts not building their fair share. The commission should extend that logic to public facilities, waiving ULURP for projects under $5 million and expediting review in districts not carrying their fair share of a given facility type. This reform would provide a pathway to enforce the fair share framework. Thank you, and we plan to submit additional recommendations in writing.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Questions, commissioners? Up, please.
I just wanted you to expand a little bit on the Department of Buildings being that single agency for affordable housing projects specifically.
Sure. I think there's different safety standards that the DOB is currently administering, and then there are fire safety standards that are administered by the FDNY, and it's kind of odd that you wouldn't have that centralized in one place. You shouldn't have to go to different agencies for different types of safety. And I think that the substance of those standards could be retained while the administrative oversight could be done through a single agency. And that would just make the whole process of applying to these different queues much more streamlined.
Agreed. Thank you.
Can I also ask a question about your streamlining ULURP for public service? You said public service projects? Public facility projects under $5 million. So is there a certain typology of service projects you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, what I listed here were like firehouses, libraries, sewage treatment plants. I don't know if any of those would be under $5 million, but I'm on Community Board 6. We have had to go through the Euler process with the combined sewage overflow facility in Gowanus. And, this is public infrastructure that should be fast tracked.
Great. Thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you. Grace Rao and Christopher Loscalzo. Grace, I have to confess that when I see you there, I feel as if I'm about to get grilled in an interview.
You get to ask the questions tonight. So the tables have turned. Chairman Gaspard, members of the Charter Commission, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is Grace Rao. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Union, a nonpartisan democracy organization dedicated to honest and accountable government, free and open elections, and a civically engaged public. Reducing red tape, streamlining permitting, and increasing government capacity to execute its mission are all crucial to providing New Yorkers with effective services. But as you all seek to tackle longstanding bureaucratic hurdles, I am also here to urge you to focus on prioritizing our public integrity and accountability watchdogs. By ensuring we have strong independent oversight agencies, we can keep government more effective, efficient, and committed to the public interest. How can you do this? By investing in money-saving, waste-reducing oversight agencies. Strong watchdogs save taxpayer dollars by preventing fraud, waste, and abuse. Department of investigations generated more than $6 million in financial recoveries last year. And then we know that there are additional dollars saved from the deterrent value that a robust watchdog agency provides. On the federal level, offices of Inspector General are known to generate $17 in returns for every $1 invested in their work. There is a clear and persuasive return on investment. The Conflicts of Interest Board provides same-day legal service to thousands of city employees annually and helps prevent violations before they occur. Yet these agencies have been underfunded for years and must go before the very officials that they regulate to ask for the funding that they need. We think their budgets need to be protected. The Charter Revision Commission that was established by the City Council last year and co-chaired by one of your fellow commissioners, Henry Garrido, conducted significant research, public input, and legal analysis on this issue and developed charter amendments to protect these watchdog agencies. These amendments have already been vetted by the law department. Given the work ahead of you and your tight timeline, these proposals are well positioned for consideration. We would also encourage you to look at restructuring oversight bodies in the city to make their work more effective. Things like bringing lobbying oversight out of the city clerk's office and into the Conflicts of Interest Board. We also support merging the 3 external police oversight agencies, the Inspector General for the Police Department, the Mayor's Commission to Combat Police Corruption, and the Civilian Complaint Review Board into a unified police oversight board. This proposal was included in the 2021 Police Reform Plan and would create a more effective and empowered oversight body. We will follow up with written testimony, but certainly encourage all of you today as the first Charter Revision Commission to follow the Adams administration to demonstrate very clearly that New York has turned the page on ethical and corruption scandals. Don't worry, I will be back. I know you have future hearings and look forward to testifying on additional proposals focused on reforming government operations in key areas like workforce, technology
You're
and
at time,
innovation,
Grace.
procurement, and open primaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners of the Charter Revision Commission and staff. My name is Chris Scalzo, and I'm proud to speak on behalf of Labor's Local 1010 and Labor's Local 1010 Lesset. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Labor's Local 1010 represents more than 2,500 members who live and work across New York City. Our members build and maintain the roads, sidewalks, parks, playgrounds, and airport runways that keep the city moving. Our members also perform essential climate resiliency and flood mitigation work, including coastal protection, wetlands restoration, urban forestry, and other infrastructure projects that reduce flood risk, promote sustainability, and strengthen the city's resilience to extreme weather. As the Commission examines ways to make government more efficient, we encourage reforms that reduce bureaucratic delays, improve coordination among agencies, and help public projects move from planning to completion more quickly. Efficient government is not simply about cutting processes. It is about delivering high-quality public services and projects on time, on budget, and with accountability to taxpayers. A recent study conducted by Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations offers an example of how this can be achieved. The report examined the feasibility of a project labor agreement for the New York City Parks Department, street tree planting, and urban forestry work. The study found that a PLA structure is not only feasible, but has the potential to provide benefits to the city, the public, the contractors, and the workers. As the report notes, project labor agreements function as a job site constitution, establishing a single set of rules and expectations across an entire project rather than relying on a piecemeal approach. This creates greater coordination, workforce stability, safety, and efficiency. For public agencies managing complex projects, that can mean fewer disruptions, higher quality work, improved project delivery, and better use of taxpayer dollars. This is particularly important as New York City continues investing in parks, street trees, climate resiliency, and public realm improvements that directly benefit neighborhoods and small businesses. When projects are delivered efficiently and completed to a high standard, communities see the benefits sooner and public resources go further. Labor's Local 1010 is committed to building the workforce necessary to support these investments. Through our apprenticeship and workforce training programs, we prepare New Yorkers from diverse backgrounds, including many immigrants and first-generation Americans, for safe, productive, family-sustaining careers. Our members receive extensive training that helps ensure public projects are completed safely, efficiently, and with the highest level of craftsmanship. In addition to workforce training, Local 1010 is committed to helping our members fully participate in civic life. Through a partnership with SUNY Citizenship Now, we have assisted more than 100 members in navigating the United States citizenship process. As the Commission considers ways to improve government operations, we encourage policies that promote efficient project delivery, workforce development, and strong labor management standards. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, you're somebody who clearly has been accustomed to performing under time pressures.
Yes.
You were watching that
Yeah,
clock
I
and getting
was.
it all in.
I
It was impressive. Questions for Chris and Grace?
Grace, I was wondering if you could expand on some of the ideas for investing in oversight agencies or protecting their funding.
Sure, thank you. Fundamentally, the structure as it exists right now, where these agencies go before the city council or the mayor to seek funding when they are charged with providing oversight over those elected officials, is hugely problematic. And the City Council Charter Revision Commission last year proposed fixing a set percentage, an incredibly small percentage to be clear, of the annual budget of the city to go to those agencies. So in the case of the Conflicts of Interest Board, had that sort of formula been in effect, the Conflicts of Interest Board would have had a $4 million budget, an increase of about $1.2 million. For the Department of Investigation, it would have been on track to have a $69 million budget this year, which is about a $13 million increase. But big picture, these are really, cost savings, efficiency agencies in the city. They have the potential to have a big deterrent effect in terms of waste, fraud, and abuse. And then they actually, through their investigations, are able to find and crack down on any efforts to waste public dollars.
Please.
I'm just, Grace, appreciate that. I would just note, really this is for the commission as well as for you, but we might look at the one place that I'm aware that exists in the city charter right now is, I think, Mr. Chair, that the IBO budget is Mark would know, is a function of the OMB budget, and that has worked very well and avoided some of the battles. I mean, Mark probably feels it was too much, but it's a way of locking it in, so.
Yes, and the campaign finance board as well has a fixed budget. So there is precedent for structuring it in this way.
Thank you, Chair. I spent a lifetime in the oversight world. I worked for the late, great Elijah Cummings, one of the great oversight people our country's ever seen. And I feel that New York City actually has some of the most robust oversight in the entire country, frankly. Like take COIB, for example, it's so much stronger than the federal or state equivalent. It's not close. So besides funding, we can always improve, and you've set out some improvements that I think we should consider. Besides funding, what do you see as the greatest weakness in our current oversight system?
I mean, I think I don't know that there is a single sort of reform that I would point to as the one big sort of silver bullet that changes or revolutionizes our system. Citizens Union put out at the end of last year a broader ethics and accountability agenda for the incoming administration, and that includes a series of reforms. Many of them were in place during the de Blasio administration that were either set aside or abandoned under the prior mayoral administration that we would certainly have been advocating for those to return around lobbying disclosures, revolving door prohibitions. I think the oversight agencies play such a foundational role in this work. And so certainly for the purposes of this commission and the look at the city charter, we would argue this area is ripe and very much very much helps you all to achieve this government efficiency goal, which is incredibly laudable and important, and finally has the added advantage of already having been vetted by the law department. It was, has been packaged very nicely and clearly by the prior Charter Revision Commission that the City Council convened last year that Henry Garrido was the co-chair of. And so it's an off-the-shelf reform that we think would be really fantastic and impactful for this group to take up.
Would love to see prioritization if there were like specific ones that you think are higher priority than others. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Really thorough. And Grace, I want to in particular just show some appreciation for how you've provoked us on public ethics at a time when we need to be asking harder questions about these issues. So thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel Foss and Felice Farber. As Rachel and Felice come to the table, I want to make some quick announcements. At the very top of this hearing, I told us all that we would be out of here by 8 p.m. I told a little bit of a fib. We're going to have some extra time in this game, and we will add 15 minutes for those of you who have been waiting quite some time, who have not yet had an opportunity to testify. I have 16 individuals who are on queue. That means 8 more panels. So we'll extend to 8:15. For those of you who are online, I hope you've noted the message that we sent to you indicating that we will not be able to take online testimony this evening. We invite you to submit written testimony or to come to one of the other 9 public hearings that we will hold these next days and weeks.
Love to see you.
Yes, please.
Good evening, members and staff of the Charter Commission. My name is Rachel Foss, and I'm Senior Policy Advisor for reInvent Albany. We advocate for transparent and accountable government in New York. We welcome the appointment of this commission, and despite the short timeline, believe you can propose realistic actions to make New York City government more effective and accountable. The last mayoral administration was rocked by the biggest series of corruption scandals in decades and revealed strengths and weaknesses in the city's internal controls and watchdogs. We believe the commission must respond to this eruption of corruption by taking steps to strengthen New York City's frontline ethics agencies, in particular, the Department of Investigation and Conflicts of Interest Board. This will sound a little familiar to what Grace said, so I will try to get at some different points. First, we strongly support independent budgeting for both agencies, the DOI and Conflicts of Interest Board, and as well as more independent appointment processes and removal protections. We strongly support making ethics guidance issued by the Conflicts of Interest Board far more transparent, and that's an amendment to Chapter 68 of the City Charter. We also support putting lobbying and ethics under one roof, ideally at a more independent New York City Ethics Commission. And lastly, we support strengthening ethics laws regarding city-affiliated nonprofits. One other stat I would add for you as far as how investing in oversight agencies is a good use of public taxpayer dollars. In addition to federal inspectors generals saving $18 for every $1 that is spent, I think Grace used a similar statistic, the General Accounting Office in DC results in $123 in savings for every dollar spent. So that's another example of why oversight saves money. Again, the City Council's commission studied a number of these proposals. They're off the shelf and ready to go. Another thing they studied that I'd recommend to you is that the DOI commissioner needs to be more protected. Two ways to do that are to make sure that removal is only for cause with written notice and an opportunity for a public hearing of the City Council. And a second part is giving the DOI commissioner a 5 or 7 year term. And then I'll leave it there. My written testimony has a lot of statistics on the way that this agency's budgets have been decimated. DOI is down a quarter of its staff versus 10 years ago. That's a huge number. It lost more than 100 staff. I think in particular, they're in dire need of protection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Felice Farber, Executive Director of the Subcontractors Trade Association. STA represents more than 350 specialty trade firms that deliver New York City's public works infrastructure, and I should emphasize that we're 100% union contractors. The Commission should consider removing or meaningfully narrowing the controller's role in the procurement and contract administration process, particularly with respect to contract registration, change order review, and extra work dispute determinations. Reducing duplicative administrative steps would accelerate project delivery, improve cash flow, reduce claims, and allow agencies to manage projects more efficiently. The Charter recognizes the need for flexibility in procurement through Charter Section 332, authorizing the PPB. Many existing permitting requirements were developed around the traditional design, bid, build, delivery model, where complete construction documents are available before construction begins. The Charter should expressly authorize permitting agencies to establish phased permit submission and review processes, concurrent reviews, and other streamlined approaches tailored to alternative delivery methods. For design, build, and other alternative delivery procurements, the city should require the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical contractors be identified as part of the proposal submission process. These specialty trades are responsible for the most complex and technically sophisticated elements of public infrastructure projects and play a central role in project planning, constructability, pricing, scheduling, and execution. Timely payment is critical to success of the public construction projects and the financial viability and stability of subcontractors that perform the work. The city should track payment timeliness beginning on the date a payment requisition is submitted, rather than measuring the period only after an agency approves payment. Public reporting should track the amount of time required for agency review and acceptance of payment requisitions. The city should also create a publicly accessible payment tracking database that allows subcontractors to monitor the status of payment requisitions. While the Comptroller's Checkbook NYC provides useful information regarding payments made to prime contractors, it does not provide requisition level information. Finally, the Commission should recommend reforms to the subcontractor approval process to ensure greater transparency and predictability. When an agency declines to approve a proposed subcontractor, the agency should be required to provide written notice to both the prime and the sub explaining the basis for the decision. And the city should also establish a formal appeal process with defined timelines for reconsideration and final agency action. Currently, subcontractors may be rejected without sufficient explanation and without a meaningful opportunity to address concerns or correct perceived deficiencies. Greater transparency would improve fairness, reduce delays, and ensure that qualified subcontractors are not unnecessarily excluded from public work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Questions from commissioners? There are no questions. Thank you so very much. I'd like to now invite Aaron Beinstein and Pedro Rodriguez to testify. And as Aaron and Pedro prepare to do so, I just want to encourage those of you who have not yet testified to please take this time to go over your statements, to make a determination as to whether or not someone has already, or a number of other individuals may have already read into the record some of your recommendations, some of your observations. That way we can try to get as many speakers in before 8:15 as possible. Thank you. Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Beinstein, and I am a Local 40 iron worker. I want to thank you all for listening to what we have to say today. We, as Local 40 iron workers, like to say we are proud sponsors of the New York City skyline. We are also proud sponsors of the MTA weekend shutdowns and lower level closures on the Verrazano and other interborough bridges.
That's quite a flex.
As we look towards being more efficient, the first thing I'd like to stress is to not sacrifice a focus on safety. No job or infrastructure project is worth more than a worker's health or their well-being. And every worker wants to be able to go home at the end of the day to see their families. Maintaining a positive safety culture is vital to a healthy city. Secondly, like Diego spoke to earlier, a lot of these infrastructure projects are partially, if not fully, state funded. This means that workers are paid at prevailing wage scales as required by law. Even so, some of these jobs are awarded to non-union companies who do not pay their workers at this rate, and thus are committing prevailing wage fraud. The State Department of Labor has their Bureau of Public Work and Prevailing Wage Enforcement, and the Comptroller Office in the city offers wage protections and opportunities to file complaints on their websites. But I would like to see the city work more closely with the state and commit to stronger enforcement of preventing this fraud.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. My name is Pedro Rodriguez, and I am a father, a community board member of Community Board 6, and a street safety advocate. And I'm the founder of Neighbors for a Safer Austin Street, which is a local group in Forest Hills that's trying to find pedestrian safety on our Austin Street. I am, however, not representing any of those groups. I am here by myself. Hundreds of people are killed and tens of thousands are injured every single year on our streets due to traffic violence. In my own neighborhood, Rigo Park in Forest Hills, on average, we see 11 injuries every week and 2 fatalities every year. And that is just my neighborhood. I'm sure all of your neighborhoods see a similar statistics. This is why I decided to get involved in my local community, But sadly, for several reasons, the city is not moving with the urgency this issue demands. Let's be honest, Vision Zero has been a failure. It's been active for about 10 years, and we are nowhere near zero. Mayor Mandani said that he wanted New York City streets to be the envy of the world, quote unquote. And to help in that goal, this commission should look at the following problems. One is the speed of street improvements. At the moment, the speed at which the city moves to improve our streets is just too slow. Bike lane, bus lanes, sidewalks, expansions, daylighting, whatever it takes, can take years. While Mayor Mandani has made efforts to speed this up, bottlenecks still exist. This commission should look into what we can do around that. Two, at the moment, the city has to beg the state every couple of years to request an increase in speed cameras. According to the DOT, speed cameras have a significant decrease in street fatalities and injuries. The commission should look into how we can allow the city to just expand as needed. On the same topic, the commission should look into returning traffic enforcement to DOT. This was a change in the 90s where it went from DOT to the NYPD on the Giuliani, and it just hasn't worked. Lastly, this commission should look into allowing automatic enforcement, not just of speed and light and red lights, but also parking, ASPs, and other violations. Because let's be honest, it's 2026, and it's kind of strange that we're still relying on someone walking up and down the street giving tickets. And thirdly, or in the grander scheme of things, people already talked about this, but the Department of Design and Constructions can take at least 10 years to do any project. When I first found out about this, I thought it was incredible. But a lot of our street safety relies on the DDC. So this commission should also look into what kind of changes the DDC can be done at DDC as well as the rest of the agencies. So as I understand, the DDC was something under Bloomberg. Not really sure what we were doing before that, but that something needs to be done. So while the media often focuses on crime, the simple fact is that if any of us were to die today, it will probably be because of a car. Like, that is just a fact. As a parent, this scares me the heck out of me, and I definitely want to see it fixed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you both. Questions from our commissioners? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Marco Tang and Lauren Napier. In addition to the concrete recommendations that have been made about charter-specific potential ballot initiatives, there's so much else that we've been able to gather up tonight that can inform the work of efficiency and building an excellent government into the future that sits outside of charter reform, and we appreciate all that. And so far, this hearing has also given me the opportunity to discover that Kathy has a hip hop ringtone. So this is great. Please. Marco, would you like to start?
Okay. Hello, I am Michael Tang. I'm an NYC resident, and though this might be, it may not be pipes and roads, but I would argue that education is the hidden infrastructure for everybody. But I am probably asking for a pie in the sky recommendation, but this is a big problem and has been plaguing human society, not just America, every society ever since, believe it or not, Frederick the Great and Horace Mann, both of, I think, Prussia, I believe. For the standardized testing has been a bane on our society, and literacy, yes, literacy, the huge amounts of the freaking race, rate of the critical race theory, all that is important. But the most important thing is the fact that the education system has been designed to crush creativity and beat it to death. Brenda, I am a polymath. I literally like learning new things. I learn about Middle Eastern culture, Middle Eastern history. I learn about philosophy, sciences. Guess my grades. I was a C, D, F student. The system keeps beating down neurodivergent kids like me over and over and over. The Common Core beats it down over and over and over. I all got smart out from the system, despite the system, and the system keeps. I tried to climb out, and Common Core keeps stamping on my hands. Pearson, who, by the way, is infuriating how our kids are forced to basically squeeze the life out of their creativity, out of their inner child, just to be hopefully get a job. Do you know how screwed up that is? Do you know how screwed up this society is? Like, there are so many alternatives to it. Sudbury schools, democratic schools, having philosophy classes in schools, freaking meditation schools, civil rights schools, but Common Core and standardized testing have crushed this initiative so hard that according to the CDC and student suicides, including those of mine, of Asian and Chinese communities, right at least 20% because of this system. This system is not only messed up, it has a blood toll. It has been crushing, and we need to fix it. This needs to be fixed in the school charter, or more people will die in both in body and literal spirit because of this.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for your testimony, and I'm sorry for some of what you experienced in the education system. Thank you. Please, Lauren.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lauren Napier, and that was very powerful.
Thank you.
Okay. I am here and I'm also nervous and cold. So I just want to start by saying, give me a little grace here. Um, I am going to share something also that is quite personal, but something that I believe is affecting many people throughout the city. Through a cataclysmic series of events, I am now experiencing homelessness and I am living currently in a DHS women's shelter. I have arrived at this position and this place. That's one story, but what I have learned within the shelter is a completely different story. It's very important. And what I'm seeing, I believe, is just a the city is and the city resources and the taxpayers are just being we're hemorrhaging funds by what's going on in these shelters. For 7 months, I have been a firsthand witness to the extraordinary inefficiencies that exist across the network of city agencies, nonprofit operators, contractors, and private equity partners responsible for serving the homeless in the city. Gail Brewer was here. My shelter is actually in her district, and I've been on numerous occasions trying to get in touch with her office. So if anyone can connect me with her, I would appreciate that. The shelter that I reside in operates under a contract that is nearly $80 million for 5 years. And I have, my 7 months, have seen that investment not be put to work at all. I have watched housing placements for myself and for many, many of the women in the shelter be delayed. Approvals have gone unsolved. Women have lost apartments because of bureaucratic delays and agency inefficiencies. And the human cost is devastating, but as I mentioned, there is a financial cost, and I believe that it's a really staggering cost. I once was a six-figure income earner in the city, and so I expected that my taxes would be paid into these systems, and they clearly are not. I'm about to run out of time, but the average shelter stay in the city is 500 days for an individual, 800 days for a family. I have been in the shelter for 208 days, and I have had over 140 days of just administrative stagnation. So the shelter is what I feel and what I believe is really warehousing women. We are not being processed, and we are being held, there. Again, as I said, the city is hemorrhaging money, and there are numerous ways to resolve this issue. And I would be happy to present some of those. I have discovered lots of information and would be happy to share more about that. And I know my time is up.
Thank you so much,
thank you.
Lauren, for your firsthand testimonial. It's terribly important to receive this direct interaction and direct intervention from those who are on the consuming end of public services. Thank you both for sharing and for your vulnerability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from our commissioners?
Just a question for you, Lauren.
Sure.
I think Anna had the
Sorry.
hand first.
So first of all, thank you so much, Marco, and thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
As our chair just said, there's a special value hearing from our consumers, our city members, people in our city, in addition to those of us who are working, doing policy, and making other recommendations. I wanted to see how we could incorporate some of the experiences that you both shared, each of you, in the recommendations in the charter. So I'm assuming, Marco, that your comments about your experience about restrictive education options.
Yes.
And the quality of that and what that does to individuals and communities is one of the ways that we can look at educational recommendations and guidance and things in the charter. Am I assuming correctly?
Yeah, there are so many solutions. Look, Lucius, there are the Sudbury schools, including one that's in New York City, Hudson Valley Sudbury School. Well, that they moved away from the Sudbury School, but it's a democratic school where students and teachers both have input. Right nowadays, nobody gives a single care. They're more likely to smash you with the dirt and make you test until your eyes fall out. Fall out. Like there's so many, and like metal. Do you want to like crush bullying, get mental health classes, get philosophy classes, get social interaction classes. Why are these just randomly just thrown in to the charter like croutons in a salad? Like, why? Or why? Or even better, martial arts classes. You don't want to be better to crush a bully? Have a black belt, smash them to the ground, and tell them that like freaking that violence is meant to be used as the last resort. I'm a martial artist myself, so
Marco, I have to give you 20 more seconds, 20 more
yeah,
seconds.
yeah. And I'm a martial artist myself, so and I still get my belt to the ground, and I'm a black belt. So, but do you want to? And so much just stop bullying. Too much, too little for too little. This needs to be handled bigger. It is a big ask,
Thank you.
but it's something to spark conversation at least or initiatives.
Thank you, Marco. I think Henry had a question.
Just a clarification for Lauren, you said the stagnation you felt, was it at the shelter or was it with the city agencies?
The stagnation is with both. There is what I would call a constellation of agencies and operators that are working. They should be working in tandem, but they seem to be working in opposition with each other. There is not continuity or transparency between the agencies. And so there are consistent delays. I think I mentioned, I know I wrote it down, but I acquired an apartment in March and it is now June and I'm still in the shelter because of the administrative delays and the bureaucracy. And so my frustration exists because the taxpayer is paying for me to reside in the shelter, but they're also paying for my apartment and I cannot access it. And that is consistent not just with myself, but I can count right now 10 people who were eligible to move out of the shelter on June 1st. And we are waiting for HRA to provide checks and documentation. There is some, like I said, some inefficiencies and I would call it
Quick
outright ignorance
summation,
on the
Lauren,
part.
sorry.
I'm sorry?
Just have to wrap up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you both. Thank you. Last question.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, an announcement and an apology. I'm inviting Trisha Joyce and Patrick Lyons to testify now. Their testimony will take us over the extended time. We will not have an opportunity to hear from those of you who have waited patiently through this evening. I'd like to ask that if you are still interested in testifying, that you can do one of two things. One, submit your testimony in writing, or speak to our staff immediately at the conclusion of this meeting, and we will make every effort to advantage you at the next set of public hearings that we have so that you have an opportunity to speak on record. Can I ask staff to raise your hand now, please, so that, yes, thank you. Patrick's not here, so I'd like to ask Karen Q to join us. Karen not being here, I'm going to mispronounce this name. Forgive me, Leo Rubsamen. Thank you. Trisha.
Good evening. Thank you all very much. I have to say it's almost disorienting after working and living here 36 years to have a mayor pull together a commission like this. I can't tell you how much we appreciate being heard.
Thank you.
Anyway, I am a 36-year resident and business owner in this community district. I'm the chair of the Youth and Education Committee of that community board, though I'm speaking on my own behalf tonight. I started my business in the early 90s here when this neighborhood was largely an artist's district, mixed use, a lot of commercial warehouses, and it's now become more of a family-friendly neighborhood. Largely thanks to a public school that opened on Greenwich Street just before then. We couldn't have known that 10 years after that, that we would sustain a terrorist event of epic proportions that not only destroyed much of our infrastructure, but sickened our residents, devastated our housing and our economy here. After 9/11, the city wisely incentivized people to move back down here. But as a result, the financial district alone saw 238% growth in 5 years. Just for context, that would have been the largest growing city in the United States of America. The success of that incentivization created challenges the city somehow failed to anticipate, and it was never matched with the infrastructure investment the moment demanded. While we were still recovering, we had to fight for and get 4 new schools sited, approved, and built to meet this demand, often through relentless, sustained community advocacy and partnerships with our elected officials, Gail, who was one of them, who was one of our most precious resources. The process for approving schools is something I'd like to expound on at some point when there's more time, because it is desperately in need of revision. Schools placed in former post offices and retail stores, which is what we ended up having to do, under fire created resultant infrastructure demands of their own: pedestrian safety, traffic management, outdoor spaces to evacuate students in fire escapes or fire drills, and crossing guards. Sanitation wasn't properly addressed. 12 feet of trash stacked up. Affordable housing was completely overlooked as residential conversions were approved at breakneck speed. We are still fighting for many of these things 25 years later. We have no crossing guards at 3 of the 4 of our elementary schools. Lower Manhattan pays some of the highest housing costs and taxes in the city, yet we can't park in front of our own apartments.
Please
Why?
be aware you're at time.
Okay, is because the city agencies have all of our parking spaces down here. I don't know if people are aware of that. Anyway, I'll wrap up by saying that our hope is that city agencies can work together better and more efficiently, not only in costs, but in getting things done in a timely manner. We've experienced unbelievable delays and inefficiencies in about 6 or 7 agencies we've had to work with in this recovery period. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you to all the commissioners volunteering their time. Thank you to all the passionate New Yorkers who took time out of their day to contribute to the next chapter of our great city. My name is Leo Slunkovic-Salmon, and I've lived in New York my whole life. I'm testifying today because of the defining crisis of my generation: housing affordability. There are countless people who, like me, cannot fathom leaving this city, but the cost of housing is making that painful choice the only realistic one. We need to address the housing crisis head on, and revising the charter is the right tool. New York's problem has never been demand. People want to live here. They always have. The problem we face is lack of supply. There simply are not enough homes to go around, and we have made it prohibitively difficult to build more. The city government needs to get out of its own way and let New York build. Between 2010 and 2023, permitting a new apartment building took about 18 months. Owners pay taxes, debt service, and insurance the whole time, and projects that would pencil on a shorter timeline simply don't get built. The cause is structural. One project can need separate permits and inspections from the Department of Buildings, from the Fire Department, from the Department of Environmental Protection, the Parks Department, Department of Housing Preservation and Development, each on its own timeline. On top of this, changing the building code requires a local law from City Council, which slows and politicizes what should be just a technical update. This commission should make DOB, the Department of Buildings, the single permitting and inspection authority for construction. Agencies would keep their own standards, but DOB would administer them and administer all the inspections. The commission should also let DOB update the construction and building codes by simple rule adoption, and this would mirror the state's current model. Thank you.
Thank you. No final questions for our panelists. Thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you to everyone for your testimony this evening. The next public hearing of this commission will be held tomorrow evening in the Bronx at 5 p.m. at Fordham University in the McShane Campus Center at 441 East Fordham Road. It will focus on streamlining the experience of working with government for small businesses and community organizations. But like today, we will welcome testimony from all New Yorkers on topics related to the charter. I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
A move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
Yeah, I said aye.